You've already called a plumber 3 times this year. You've argued with all 3 of them. Here's why every single one of them was right and you were wrong. 71 times over. 1. You've already done the math in your head, and it doesn't add up. The plumber was at your house for 20 minutes, and the invoice says $200, so obviously someone is getting robbed here, and it isn't the pipe. Here's the part they don't teach you at the kitchen table. You're not paying for elapsed minutes. You are paying for the decade of pattern recognition that identified your problem in 90 seconds. That's the product. The speed is the entire value proposition. Plumbers charge a flat service call fee that covers dispatch, fuel, vehicle overhead, licensing fees, insurance premiums, and tool amortization. None of which disappear because the diagnosis came quickly. A master plumber license in most states requires a minimum of 4 to 5 years of apprenticeship plus a written examination. Every time a licensed plumber walks through your door, you are paying for that credential, whether the job takes 20 minutes or 4 hours. A misdiagnosed plumbing issue left untreated for even 20 extra minutes can mean water intrusion, mold growth, or structural subfloor damage, costing $10,000 or more. The fast fix wasn't luck. It was expertise applied efficiently, which is the best possible outcome for everyone in the room, including you. A brain surgeon who completes a procedure in under an hour doesn't get a discount request because the patient's family thought it would take longer. The speed is the goal. The experience is what made the speed possible. Complaining a plumber was too fast is like complaining your fire department put out the blaze before it reached the 2nd floor. The speed was the entire point, and you standing there with your phone calculator is the most expensive 20 minutes of this whole visit. 2. Your pipes are fine because water comes out when you turn the tap. That is your complete and total evidence, and you've staked the entire structural future of your home on it. Water flowing through a pipe tells you almost nothing about the condition of that pipe. It tells you the pipe hasn't catastrophically failed yet, which is a very different sentence. Galvanized steel pipes, standard in homes built before 1960, corrode from the inside out, restricting flow gradually while appearing perfectly functional until they split without warning during a Tuesday morning that had otherwise been going fine. Pinhole leaks in copper pipes caused by chloramine reactions with municipal water. Treatment chemicals can weep water into wall cavities for months before any visible symptom appears at your tap. Cast iron drain lines experience a failure mode called graphitization, where the iron matrix dissolves, but the pipe retains its shape, holding water like a wet paper bag until mechanical stress collapses it entirely. Water pressure can remain normal even when 60 to 70% of your pipe's interior diameter is blocked by mineral scale. The system compensates until the blockage becomes total, and then it stops compensating all at once. The Insurance Institute reports that slow, undetected plumbing leaks, not the dramatic bursts that make good television, account for the majority of residential water damage claims, averaging $11,000 per incident. Polybutylene pipes installed in millions of American homes between 1978 and 1995 were recalled for spontaneous failure with 0 warning symptoms. Water ran fine. Until the day it didn't. Saying your pipes are fine because water runs is like saying your arteries are fine because your heart is still beating. One does not confirm the other, and neither will send you a calendar invite before the emergency. 3. The package says, flushable. You followed the instructions, the wipe went down, and therefore the plumber blaming your wipes for a sewer backup is wrong. Possibly illiterate, and definitely trying to avoid accountability for someone else's problem. The word flushable on a wipe package is a marketing claim with 0 regulatory backing. It means the wipe will physically pass through the 3-inch opening of your toilet drain. It says nothing, not one syllable, about what happens in the 50 feet of pipe between your toilet and the city sewer. The Federal Trade Commission has no standardized legal definition of flushable for consumer products. Manufacturers self-certify. The claim is entirely unverified by any independent authority. Water utility districts across the United States, United Kingdom, Canada, and Australia have collectively spent hundreds of millions of dollars annually clearing blockages from municipal sewer lines. Masses of congealed wipes and grease that workers have nicknamed fatbergs. London's Sewage Authority documented a 250-ton fatberg in 2017, stretching 820 feet beneath Whitechapel, composed primarily of flushable wipes bonded with cooking fat. Standard toilet paper is engineered to disintegrate in water within seconds. Laboratory testing of leading flushable wipe brands shows they retain 90% or more of their structural integrity after 30 minutes of submersion. They don't break down, they travel. Municipalities in New York City, Washington, D.C., and Vancouver have sued wipe manufacturers over infrastructure damage, with settlements reaching into the tens of millions. Your home's drain line is the first bottleneck. Wipes catch on root intrusions, pipe joints, and scale buildup, forming a dam that backs sewage into your home. Not the city's problem, yours. Trusting flushable on a wipe package is the same as trusting diet on a soda can. Technically accurate, in the most useless possible interpretation, your pipes know the truth, and right now the plumber is showing it to you on a camera. 4. Your husband already fixed it before the plumber arrived, using duct tape, plumber's putty, and the kind of confidence that can only come from never having been wrong about anything in front of witnesses. The plumber's assessment that the fix is incorrect is being received as a personal attack on the husband's craftsmanship. Let's be precise. Duct tape has a water-activated adhesive failure rate that makes it functionally useless as a plumbing repair material. Plumber's putty is a sealing compound, not a structural repair material. Together, they are a countdown timer wearing the costume of a solution. Duct tape adhesive is acrylic or rubber-based. Sustained water contact degrades the bond within hours to days, and the tape was never rated for pressurized water systems. The manufacturer's own specifications say exactly that. Plumber's putty is a soft, oil-based compound designed specifically to seal static joints like drain flanges and faucet bases against slow seepage. It has 0 pressure rating and will extrude out of any joint under even low water pressure. The average residential water supply line operates at 40 to 80 pounds per square inch of constant pressure. A duct tape patch on a supply line is experiencing the equivalent of someone pushing against it with up to 80 pounds of force every single second around the clock, including while your husband sleeps comfortably, confident in his work. Improper pipe repairs that fail inside wall cavities can go undetected long enough to rot subfloor joists, trigger mold growth, and compromise structural framing. Insurance companies routinely deny water damage claims when evidence of prior improper DIY repair is present. The International Residential Code explicitly prohibits non-rated repair materials on pressurized supply lines. Putting duct tape on a pressurized pipe and calling it fixed is like putting a bandage on a fire hydrant. It holds long enough for you to feel good about yourself. Then the hydrant wins. 5. Karen called back 3 weeks later because the drain is slow again, the plumber clearly did shoddy work, and she expects a return visit at no charge because a drain clearing should be permanent. She has a warranty in her mind, if not on paper, and she considers that sufficient. A drain snaking removes the immediate blockage. It does not alter the underlying condition of the pipe that caused the blockage. Expecting permanence from a clearing is like expecting a haircut to stop hair from growing. Drain snaking physically breaks apart or retrieves a clog. It does not clean pipe walls, remove grease film, or address root infiltration, which will recolonize a cleared pipe within weeks under the right conditions. Tree root infiltration, the leading cause of recurring mainline blockages, regrows at approximately 1 to 2 inches per month inside a cleared pipe. Snaking buys time. It does not buy a solution. Grease accumulation on drain walls is a progressive condition driven by cooking habits. A cleared grease clog in a kitchen drain will reform at a rate directly proportional to how much butter is still going down the sink after the plumber left. The industry standard solution for recurring blockages is hydrojetting, combined with a camera inspection to identify the root cause. A service that costs more and that was declined during the original visit. Drain clearing warranties, where they exist, typically cover 30 days and apply only to the specific blockage addressed, not new blockages caused by ongoing homeowner behavior. A survey by the Plumbing, Heating, Cooling Contractors Association found that the majority of callback complaints on drain clearing jobs involve conditions the technician had already flagged and the customer had already declined to address. Demanding a permanent drain clearing guarantee is like demanding your dentist guarantee your teeth stay clean forever after one cleaning. The hygiene is your job. The professional handles the emergency. 6. Hot water melts grease. You watched it happen, you've seen the grease liquefy, you've seen it go down the drain, and you have been managing your kitchen drain for years with boiling water and dish soap like a reasonable adult, and the plumber suggesting otherwise is wrong. Hot water does temporarily liquefy grease. Then the water cools as it travels through the pipe. The grease resolidifies further down the drain, where you cannot reach it with a kettle, a prayer, or 2 decades of misplaced confidence. Kitchen drain lines in a typical home run 20 to 40 feet before reaching the main stack. Water temperature drops dramatically over that distance, resolidifying grease in the horizontal runs where it accumulates fastest. Grease does not dissolve in water. It is hydrophobic. Dish soap creates temporary emulsification, breaking grease into smaller droplets that travel further into the pipe system before recoalescing on cooler walls. The City of New York conducted infrastructure studies finding that residential grease accumulation in building drain lines is the single largest preventable cause of residential sewer backups in dense urban housing. Repeated hot water treatments, applied over months, actually worsen the clog by relocating accumulation deeper into the drain system past the reach of a standard 25-foot hand snake. Professional hydrojetting uses water at up to 4,000 pounds per square inch, roughly 100 times the pressure of a garden hose, to fully scour pipe walls. No home kettle replicates this. The correct grease management protocol is dry wiping pans before washing, using a grease trap and never treating a drain line as a liquid waste disposal system. Pouring hot water on a grease clog is like melting snow on your driveway with a hair dryer. You move the problem, you do not solve it. And the problem gets worse at the end of the driveway. 7. The water heater failed 2 days after the plumber worked on an unrelated pipe in the basement. The plumber was in the basement, the water heater is in the basement, and this is obviously not a coincidence. The causal chain is clear, the invoice should be 0, and perhaps there should also be an apology. Water heaters fail on their own schedule, governed by age, sediment buildup, anode rod depletion, and thermal cycling wear, none of which a plumber repairing an adjacent pipe accelerates, triggers, or influences in any measurable way. The average tank water heater has a manufacturer-manufacturer rated lifespan of 8 to 12 years. The majority of units that fail do so with no triggering event after years of quiet internal degradation that was already well underway before the plumber's truck appeared in the driveway. Sediment accumulation at the bottom of a tank insulates the burner, causing the element to overheat and fail. A process measured in years of mineral deposition, not hours of someone working nearby. Anode rods, which are sacrificial magnesium or aluminum rods that prevent tank corrosion, deplete over 3 to 5 years. When they fail, tank corrosion accelerates rapidly. Thermal expansion damage to heating elements and thermostats is caused by repeated heat cycling over thousands of cycles. Entirely internal, entirely unrelated to exterior pipework. A plumber working on supply lines or drain lines has no physical interaction with a water heater's internal components unless specifically hired to service the unit. The proximity fallacy is so common in service call disputes that major plumbing trade associations publish training materials, specifically coaching technicians, to document pre-existing appliance conditions before beginning unrelated work. Blaming the plumber for your dying water heater because they were in the same room is like blaming the cable installer for your refrigerator compressor giving out. Proximity is not causation. Age is. 8. The toilet has been running for a few minutes after flushing for about 2 years. Karen has known about it for 2 years, and it is a quirk. A minor inconvenience, not a crisis, and certainly not something that justifies a service call at a price that offends her. The plumber calling it urgent is upselling panic. A constantly running toilet is a wide-open water line bleeding money directly into your sewer. It is not a quirk. It is an ongoing financial situation that has been running for approximately 730 days while you've been calling it personality. A standard toilet flapper failure causing continuous running wastes between 200 and 1,000 gallons of water per day depending on the severity of the leak, the equivalent of 4 to 20 full bathtubs daily. At average residential water rates, a moderate toilet leak wastes $300 to $1,500 per year on water alone before sewer surcharges are added because sewer fees are calculated on water consumption. The toilet fill valve and flapper together cost $10 to $25 at any hardware store and take under 30 minutes to replace. The EPA's WaterSense program estimates that toilet leaks in American homes collectively waste 1 trillion gallons of water annually, making your minor annoyance one of the country's largest sources of residential water waste at scale. Continuous water flow through a flapper seat causes mineral etching of the flush valve seat over time, eventually requiring seat replacement or full flush valve assembly replacement. A $15 problem that becomes a $150 problem through inaction and a creative tolerance for background noise. In municipalities with tiered water pricing, a running toilet can push a household into the highest billing tier, multiplying water costs by 3 to 4 times. Letting a running toilet go for 2 years because it's just annoying is like leaving your car window open in the rain and calling it a ventilation feature. 9. Karen watched a YouTube video about thawing frozen pipes with a heat gun. She thawed the pipe, the water is running, problem solved. And the plumber insisting on an inspection is manufacturing concern where none exists because the water is running and she checked. The moment a pipe freezes, it may have already split. The split doesn't leak until the ice thaws. The water running after your DIY thaw is the 30-second preview before the flood begins. Water expands approximately 9% in volume when it freezes. This expansion inside a rigid pipe creates internal pressure exceeding 2,000 pounds per square inch, far beyond any pipe's rated burst pressure. A frozen pipe split does not always immediately leak because the ice plug itself is holding the fracture closed. Thawing, the pipe removes the plug and begins water flow through the split you don't know is there yet. The average insurance claim for a pipe burst following a freeze event is $18,000 to $20,000 when water damage to flooring, walls, and contents is included. The most dangerous freeze locations, behind walls, in crawl spaces, in uninsulated exterior wall cavities, cannot be inspected or accessed with a consumer heat gun. These are precisely where splits are most likely to occur, and precisely where you cannot see them without a professional assessment. Improper thawing techniques, using open flame torches, cause an estimated several hundred house fires annually in the United States, according to the National Fire Protection Association. A professional freeze inspection uses thermal imaging to identify ice locations and microsplits before water flow is restored, a capability that does not exist in the YouTube tutorial Karen watched twice. Thawing your own frozen pipe and declaring victory before an inspection is like landing a plane with the engine on fire, taxiing to the gate, and telling the mechanics everything is fine. The fire was just the beginning of that conversation. 10. Karen called 5 plumbers, went with the lowest bid by $40, something went wrong, and she's now back on the phone with the original plumber because plumbing is plumbing, pipes are pipes, and price is the only variable that could possibly matter in distinguishing one licensed professional from another. Plumbing licensing exists on a tiered spectrum from apprentice to journeyman to master, and only a licensed master plumber is legally authorized to perform the full scope of residential plumbing work in most jurisdictions. Cheap often means unlicensed. Most states require a master plumber license for work involving new construction, repiping, water heater installation, and gas line work. Hiring an unlicensed contractor for this work is illegal and voids any permit approval. Improperly installed plumbing, particularly waistline slope, venting, and water heater connections, can cause chronic sewer gas infiltration into the home, introducing hydrogen sulfide and methane at levels that are both toxic and fire hazardous. Plumbing work that fails municipal code inspection requires full removal and reinstallation at the homeowner's expense regardless of who performed it, meaning a cheap job that fails inspection costs double. Insurance companies have the contractual right to deny claims arising from damage caused by unlicensed contractor work. This is buried in virtually every standard homeowner's policy. The Contractors State License Board in California alone receives tens of thousands of complaints annually against unlicensed contractors, with plumbing consistently among the top 3 categories. A legitimate licensed master plumber carries general liability insurance and workers' compensation. If an uninsured unlicensed worker is injured in your home, you as the property owner bear workers' compensation liability. Choosing a plumber purely by lowest bid is the same logic as choosing a parachute by lowest price. The difference in quality is invisible until the exact moment it becomes catastrophic and irreversible. 11. Karen poured an entire bottle of industrial-strength drain cleaner into her pipes an hour before calling the plumber. The drain is still slow. She cannot understand why the plumber seems annoyed, and she is actively resistant to any suggestion that she has made the situation more complicated rather than less. Liquid drain cleaners are diluted sodium hydroxide or sulfuric acid sitting in water inside your pipe, dissolving whatever is closest, including your pipe walls, while the plumber is now handling a drain full of caustic chemical that nobody mentioned when they booked the appointment. Sodium hydroxide drain cleaners create an exothermic reaction in water, generating heat up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit inside the drain, sufficient to soften and warp PVC pipe, which is rated only to approximately 140 degrees Fahrenheit under continuous service. Sulfuric acid-based cleaners react violently with standing water and certain metals. Mixing acid cleaners with bleach or ammonia-based products already in the drain creates chlorine gas, a chemical weapon at meaningful concentrations. A plumber snaking a drain recently treated with caustic chemical faces Serious chemical burn risk as the snake splashes chemical-laden water. OSHA construction standards require full face protection and chemical-resistant gloves for this scenario. Chemical cleaners have a maximum effective depth of 12 to 18 inches from the drain opening. Any blockage deeper in the pipe is completely untouched while the chemical simply pools on top of the clog, contacting the surrounding pipe walls instead. Studies published in the Journal of Environmental Toxicology found that repeated chemical drain cleaner use measurably degrades PVC pipe walls within 18 to 24 months of regular application. Pouring chemical drain cleaner and then calling a plumber without disclosing it is like setting a pan on fire, throwing something flammable on it, and handing the fire extinguisher to someone who has no idea what's in the pan. 12. Karen disputes the plumber's water pressure gauge reading because she checked the pressure herself with her thumb over the faucet, and it seems totally fine. She's lived in this house for 12 years, and 12 years of thumb-based pressure assessment is apparently a credential she is prepared to defend. Your thumb is not a calibrated instrument. Water pressure fluctuates throughout the day, varies by fixture location, and cannot be meaningfully assessed by tactile sensation. The gauge exists precisely because human perception of pressure is unreliable at the level of detail that matters for your plumbing. Residential water pressure is measured in pounds per square inch. The acceptable residential range per the Uniform Plumbing Code is 40 to 80 psi, with anything above 80 psi classified as high pressure, requiring a pressure-reducing valve. High water pressure above 80 psi accelerates wear on every water-using appliance in the home, including washing machine hoses, refrigerator ice maker lines, dishwasher seals, and toilet fill valves, reducing appliance lifespan by 30 to 50%. Low pressure can indicate a failing pressure-reducing valve set incorrectly or significant mineral scale restricting supply line interior diameter, none of which are detectable by faucet feel at any level of residential experience. Water pressure at a fixture is affected by simultaneous demand elsewhere in the house. A pressure reading taken while a washing machine is running misrepresents static supply pressure by up to 20 psi. Pressure testing requires a gauge threaded onto a hose bib with all other fixtures closed, a controlled static reading that takes 90 seconds. A pressure-reducing valve failure, extremely common after 10 to 15 years, can allow street pressure, sometimes reaching 120 to 150 psi in urban mains, to flow unrestricted into the home. Checking water pressure with your thumb is the calibration equivalent of checking your tire pressure by kicking the sidewall. It gives you a feeling and zero data. 13. The shower drain takes approximately 4 minutes to clear standing water. Karen considers this acceptable, and she resents the plumber's suggestion that the drain is partially blocked because it drains. That is what drains do. And eventually is still eventually and should still count. A shower drain that holds standing water is not slow. It is failing progressively, accumulating the debris causing the restriction with every single shower, and it is a sewer gas containment issue in the making. Drain pipes are sized and sloped to clear wastewater within seconds, not minutes. The delay Karen describes indicates a restriction of 60 to 80% of pipe capacity, classified as a partial blockage requiring immediate attention, not a quirk requiring patience. Hair and soap scum combination blockages bind together with a structural matrix that grows with every shower. A 60% blockage becomes 80%, then 95%, then complete within weeks to months depending on household size and shampoo brand preferences. Standing water in a shower drain periodically breaks the water seal in the P-trap below the drain, allowing sewer gas including hydrogen sulfide and methane to enter the bathroom. This is the origin of that weird smell Karen also mentioned, but didn't think was relevant to the conversation. Hydrogen sulfide at concentrations above 100 parts per million is acutely toxic, causing headache, nausea, and respiratory distress. Concentrations achievable in a small bathroom with a compromised trap seal. The soap scum component of a hair and soap blockage hardens over time as soap fatty acids bind with calcium and magnesium ions in hard water, creating an increasingly rigid obstruction that resists simple snaking. A shower drain cleared while still at partial blockage requires basic mechanical auguring. A fully blocked drain with a hardened matrix may require chemical pretreatment plus mechanical clearing, a process costing 3 to 4 times more. Calling a drain fine because it eventually clears is like saying your brakes are fine because the car eventually stops. 14. There's a rhythmic banging in the walls every time someone shuts off a faucet. Karen's neighbor said, "It's just the house settling. Old houses make sounds," and the plumber is fabricating a diagnosis to justify billing for something that has a perfectly reasonable folk explanation already in place. Banging pipes when water shuts off is textbook water hammer, a hydraulic shockwave traveling through your supply lines at the speed of sound. It is not settling. It is your pipe joints, fittings, and appliance connections absorbing a physical impact repeatedly on a schedule tied directly to your faucet use. Water hammer occurs when fast-closing valves, modern dishwashers, washing machines, and solenoid-operated ice makers all close in milliseconds. Suddenly halt water moving at high velocity, creating a pressure shockwave that travels back through the pipe. The pressure spike created by water hammer can reach 10 times normal line pressure instantaneously. In a line running at 60 psi, a hammer event briefly imposes 600 psi on every joint, fitting, and appliance connection in the affected line. Chronic water hammer is the leading cause of premature failure in washing machine supply hoses. The hoses most responsible for catastrophic interior flooding events, with average claims exceeding $10,000 according to insurance industry data. Water hammer arresters, spring-loaded pressure absorption chambers installed at the source of fast-closing valves, eliminate the phenomenon for approximately $20 to $40 per fitting. Unsecured pipe runs without adequate mounting straps amplify water hammer into the audible banging. The pipe is physically moving, and every movement stresses the joints. A home with chronic hammer over years should undergo fitting inspection, as compression and push-connect fittings develop micro cracks that precede full joint failure. Calling water hammer just a house settling is like hearing your car make a grinding shriek every time you brake and deciding it's probably the radio. The house is telling you something. It has been telling you something for 6 months. 15. Karen has a quarterly ritual. Bleach directly into the toilets and drains. She believes this keeps her pipes clean, germ-free, and in excellent health. And the plumber pointing at her deteriorating rubber flapper is clearly mistaken because bleach kills germs, and germs are the enemy, and therefore bleach is the solution. Bleach is a powerful oxidizer. Rubber is organic. Your toilet's flapper, fill valve seals, and wax ring are all rubber or organic compounds, and Karen has been running a slow-motion destruction program on every one of them for years. Sodium hypochlorite, household bleach, aggressively degrades natural and synthetic rubber compounds through oxidative attack, causing swelling, cracking, and loss of elasticity. The exact failure modes visible in toilet flappers, fill valve diaphragms, and tank gaskets. Toilet tank drop-in bleach tablets, the prepackaged version of this ritual, have been officially condemned by virtually every major toilet manufacturer, including American Standard and Kohler, with warranty language explicitly excluding bleach-related damage. The EPA categorizes repeated, high-concentration bleach discharge to residential drain systems as a low-level chemical stressor on municipal wastewater treatment biology, disrupting the bacterial colonies used to process sewage. Bleach does not penetrate biofilm, the protective polysaccharide matrix that bacteria use to colonize pipe walls, at the diluted concentrations present in a toilet or drain application. It sanitizes the water surface while the biofilm beneath remains entirely intact. Drain pipe microbial ecology is largely irrelevant to household disease risk. The pathogens that matter are airborne or contact transmitted, not pipe resident. The correct toilet cleaning protocol per plumbing manufacturer guidelines is mechanical scrubbing with a toilet brush and a mild cleaner, with no chemical sitting in the tank. Pouring bleach into your toilet tank to sanitize your plumbing system is like soaking your engine in disinfectant to keep your car healthy. Wrong target, wrong product, correct level of confidence. 16. Karen's water tastes fine. She's been drinking it for a decade, and if there were something wrong with her water, she would know. Taste is nature's water quality test. She has been using it her whole life, and the plumber recommending a test is inventing a problem she would have already noticed. The most dangerous water contaminants, lead, arsenic, radon, nitrates, certain bacteria, are colorless, odorless, and completely tasteless at concentrations that cause measurable, documented harm. Human taste receptors were not designed by evolution to detect dissolved heavy metals, and they are not going to start now. Lead contamination in drinking water is entirely undetectable by taste, odor, or appearance at concentrations that cause neurological damage, particularly in children. The flint. Michigan crisis affected thousands of residents who reported no change in water taste or smell. Lead leaches not from municipal supply, but from household plumbing, specifically lead solder joints standard until the 1986 Safe Drinking Water Act amendment, and brass fixtures with lead content that was legal until 2014. Arsenic, a naturally occurring groundwater contaminant in many regions including New England, the Midwest, and Southwest, has no taste at the EPA's maximum contaminant level of 10 parts per billion, a level still associated with elevated bladder and lung cancer risk with chronic exposure. Coliform bacteria, including E. coli in well water, produces no taste or odor at infectious concentrations. The only reliable detection method is laboratory culture testing. Nitrates from agricultural fertilizer runoff are tasteless at concentrations that cause methemoglobinemia in infants. The EPA regulates over 90 contaminants in municipal water. Private well owners bear sole responsibility for their own testing with no regulatory oversight. Trusting your tap water because it tastes fine is the exact same confidence the residents of Flint had every morning before the story broke. 17, Karen keeps her toilet lid permanently open because it airs out the bowl. She considers it a hygiene practice, and the plumber making any comment whatsoever about this is far outside his lane because this is a bathroom preference, not a plumbing issue. An open toilet lid during flushing creates a microbiological aerosol event that deposits fecal coliform bacteria on every surface within a 6-foot radius of the bowl, including your toothbrush, hand towels, and the countertop soap dispenser you use to wash the hands you're trusting to protect you. The phenomenon is called toilet plume. Aerosol droplets ejected during flushing that carry microorganisms from the bowl contents into the surrounding air. First documented in research by Dr. Charles Gerba at the University of Arizona in the 1970s, and consistently replicated in the decades since. Studies using fluorescent tracer dye in toilet water have visualized plume reach of up to 6 feet horizontally, with droplets remaining airborne for 60 to 90 minutes per flush. Bacteria documented in toilet plume include Staphylococcus, E. coli, and Clostridioides difficile. The latter, a pathogen that survives on environmental surfaces for months and causes severe gastrointestinal illness. Toothbrushes stored open on bathroom countertops within toilet plume range test positive for fecal coliform bacteria in microbiological studies, which is a sentence that should be doing a great deal of heavy lifting in this conversation right now. Lid closure before flushing also reduces evaporative water loss from the bowl and reduces the airborne humidity that feeds bathroom mold growth, which connects directly to the ceiling mold Karen also mentioned and wants diagnosed. The lid exists for a reason Karen has elected to override. Leaving the toilet lid open for ventilation is equivalent to sneezing directly at everyone in the room and calling it an air quality improvement. You're not airing it out, you're distributing it. 18. Karen's home was repiped with PEX 5 years ago. She paid a premium for it, and she dismisses every plumbing concern with the fact that she has new pipes because new pipes don't have problems. The plumber suggesting an inspection is simply trying to bill for unnecessary work on a system that is by definition fine because it is 5 years old. New pipe material resolves the failure modes of old pipe material. It does not resolve the failure modes of new pipe material, installation-dependent defects, or the component failures that have nothing to do with the pipe itself and everything to do with what surrounds it. PEX is highly durable for the pipe material itself, but PEX fittings, particularly brass push fit and crimp ring fittings, have documented failure modes including dezinsification of brass in high chloramine water systems, causing fitting failures in as little as 2 to 5 years in certain regions. PEX is rodent vulnerable. Mice and rats can and do chew through PEX tubing in crawl spaces and wall cavities. A failure mode, physically impossible with copper or CPVC, and one that no repipe warranty covers because it falls under the category of wildlife decisions. A repipe installs new pipe. It does not replace the water heater, pressure reducing valve, shut-off valves, fixture supply lines, or faucet cartridges, all of which have independent lifespans and failure timelines that are ticking along regardless of what the pipe is made of. PEX is UV sensitive and must not be exposed to sunlight. Improper installation leaving PEX exposed in a mechanical room with natural light. Access degrades the pipe material progressively. The chlorine resistance of PEX varies by grade, PEX A, PEX B, and PEX C, with lower grade PEX C showing shortened lifespan in high chlorine municipal water systems. Saying new pipes mean no problems for decades is like saying new tires mean no car trouble for decades. The tires are one part. The car had 10,000 other parts that were already aging the day the tires went on. 19. Your toilet has been running for a few minutes after flushing, and you've decided that raising the float arm solves the problem. You bent it upward yourself, the tank fills higher now, and you consider this a self-sufficient fix that the plumber is needlessly complicating with his assessment that you've created a new problem rather than resolve the original one. Raising the float above the manufacturer's set point fills the tank above the overflow tube threshold, causing the toilet to continuously drain water from the tank into the bowl through the overflow, wasting water constantly, silently, and invisibly on a schedule that never stops. Every toilet tank has an overflow tube, a vertical standpipe set at the maximum safe water level. When water rises above the top of this tube, it drains continuously into the bowl and then into the drain, running the fill valve constantly without the toilet ever appearing to run in any way you'd notice from the hallway. A toilet wasting water this way is indistinguishable from a properly functioning toilet to a casual observer. The tank fills, the water runs silently into the overflow, the fill valve cycles constantly. The only detection method is a dye test or listening carefully for continuous fill valve operation, neither of which you perform before declaring victory. This specific failure mode can waste 200 or more gallons per day at standard fill rates, making it one of the most expensive toilet malfunctions possible while being entirely self-inflicted and completely invisible. Toilet flush performance is determined by the trapway diameter, rimjet design, flush valve opening size, and water volume delivered, not solely by tank water level. A toilet that genuinely underperforms is more likely suffering from mineral-clogged rimjets corrected with a brush and a descaling agent, not a float adjustment. Bending the float arm up to improve your flush is like turning up your car's idle speed because you think the engine isn't running enthusiastically enough. You created a continuous waste condition while solving absolutely nothing. 20. The pilot light on Karen's gas water heater keeps going out. She has relit it 4 times in 3 weeks. She considers this a quirk of an older appliance, roughly equivalent to a car that needs a couple of tries to start, and the plumber's suggestion that this is a symptom of thermocouple failure is just a reason to generate a bill she doesn't think she owes. A pilot light that repeatedly extinguishes is a safety system telling you it has detected an unsafe condition and is responding exactly as it was designed to respond. Repeatedly relighting it without diagnosis is repeatedly overriding a safety system, and at some point, the safety system is going to be right in a way that costs significantly more than a conversation with a plumber. The thermocouple is a heat-sensing safety device positioned in the pilot flame. It generates a small electrical current that holds the gas valve open as long as the pilot is lit. If the thermocouple fails or is positioned incorrectly, it cannot hold the valve, and the pilot extinguishes as designed. A failing thermocouple is a $15 to $30 part replacement, one of the cheapest repairs in water heater service. Ignoring it in favor of repeated relighting is trading a $25 fix for months of cold showers and escalating risk. Pilot outage can also indicate a draft problem from a blocked flue, a dirty pilot orifice producing insufficient flame, or a failing gas valve. The last of which is a more serious failure that a diagnosis would identify before it becomes an emergency. Gas appliance manufacturers specifically instruct that a pilot that repeatedly extinguishes should be inspected by a licensed technician before continued operation. This instruction appears in every gas water heater installation manual ever printed. Repeatedly relighting a pilot that keeps going out is like repeatedly resetting a tripped circuit breaker without checking what's tripping it. The breaker is trying to tell you something. The pilot is trying to tell you the same thing. Karen keeps turning the conversation off. 21. Karen paid a premium for a tankless water heater 3 years ago specifically because the salesperson told her it was virtually maintenance-free. She has not touched it since installation, and the plumber's suggestion of annual descaling is an invented service call designed to extract money from someone who was promised she'd never need to have this conversation. Tankless water heaters require more frequent maintenance than tank heaters in hard water regions, not less. The maintenance-free claim refers to the absence of tank sediment accumulation. It says nothing about the heat exchanger that is accumulating mineral scale with every single gallon of water you've heated for 3 years. Tankless water heaters heat water on demand by passing it through a copper or stainless heat exchanger. In hard water, calcium and magnesium carbonate precipitate out of solution at high heat and deposit directly onto the heat exchanger coils. the highest temperature surface in the entire system. Scale buildup on a heat exchanger reduces heat transfer efficiency, forcing the unit to work harder to achieve the target output temperature. A heavily scaled unit can consume 25 to 30% more energy than a clean one, which means the premium appliance is now costing you more to operate than the budget tank heater it replaced. Manufacturers including Rinnai, Navien, and Noritz explicitly recommend annual descaling in hard water areas. This recommendation appears in every owner's manual and is a warranty condition in many models, meaning the maintenance Karen isn't doing may have already voided the coverage she thinks she has. A neglected heat exchanger with severe scale buildup eventually causes the unit to overheat, triggering error codes and thermal shutoff. Continued operation past this point cracks the heat exchanger. A repair costing $400 to $800 or triggering full unit replacement. The maintenance-free claim referred to a different maintenance requirement. It was never a promise that your water chemistry would cooperate. 22. Karen has a sump pump. She considers her basement flood-proof. The pump runs when it rains, therefore flooding is not a possibility. And the plumber's recommendation to test capacity and inspect the discharge line during heavy rain season is a hypothetical concern she does not share because she has a pump, and that is the end of the analysis. A sump pump is sized for a specific water inflow rate. It requires power to operate. It has a discharge line that can freeze, clog, or terminate incorrectly. It has a float switch that can fail. It has a motor with a finite lifespan. Having a pump and being protected are not the same statement, and the gap between them is exactly where basements flood. Sump pumps are rated in gallons per hour at a specific head height. The vertical distance water must be pumped. A pump rated for 2,000 gallons per hour at 5 feet of head may only deliver 1,200 gallons per hour at 10 feet. If the discharge line exit is higher than assumed, the pump is already underperforming its nameplate rating in your specific installation. The most common sump pump failure during the flooding events that actually matter, extended power outages during severe storms, is simple electrical failure. The pump is useless without power, which is precisely why battery backup sump pumps exist as a product category designed for this specific scenario. Float switches fail in two modes: stuck open, meaning the pump runs continuously and burns out the motor, or stuck closed, meaning the pump never activates and the basement floods silently. Discharge lines that terminate too close to the foundation allow pumped water to re-infiltrate and return to the sump pit. Sump pump motors last approximately 7 to 10 years under normal cycling. Believing your sump pump guarantees flood protection is the same confidence as believing your umbrella guarantees you won't get wet in a hurricane. 23. Karen has identified a scratch on her porcelain sink basin. She is certain it appeared during the plumber's visit. She watched him set his tool bag near the sink. The proximity of the tool bag to the scratch is conclusive evidence of causation, and she would like a resolution that acknowledges this logical chain without introducing any doubt about its validity. Porcelain sink scratches from abrasive contact are visible immediately and are distinct in appearance from pre-existing wear patterns. A plumber who sets a soft tool bag on a sink rim is not scratching porcelain, and Karen almost certainly had that scratch before the tool bag arrived. Porcelain on cast iron and vitreous china sinks scratch through abrasive contact, specifically from metal objects dragged across the surface or from abrasive cleaners used repeatedly over years. The scratch pattern from each cause is distinct under even casual examination by anyone trained to look. Pre-existing micro-scratches on porcelain accumulate mineral staining over time, making them suddenly visible under lighting conditions different from normal use. A scratch that was always there becomes newly noticed when someone is scrutinizing the sink for damage with their phone flashlight. Pre-work photo documentation of existing finish conditions is now standard practice for many plumbing companies precisely because finish damage claims, nearly always disputed, are among the most common post-service disagreements in residential plumbing. A genuinely new scratch from a plumber's tool during a service call is a legitimate claim with a legitimate resolution process. A disputed scratch with no documentation on either side is a civil disagreement that professional dispute resolution exists to address without anyone's certainty functioning as a verdict. Blaming the plumber for a scratch because they were near the sink is the liability logic of blaming the mail carrier for your broken step because they were on your porch. Proximity plus existing damage does not equal causation. It equals a scratch that was there before. 24. Karen's son watched a video, decided to clear a toilet clog with a wet, dry shop vacuum before the plumber arrived, and now there is water across the bathroom floor. The vacuum smells like a municipal water treatment facility in August, and the plumber is expected to address all of this as though it constitutes a normal residential service call. A wet, dry vac can remove standing water from a toilet bowl. It cannot generate the pressure differential needed to dislodge a trapway obstruction, and attempting to create suction on a toilet drain introduces sewage directly into the vacuum's filtration system and motor housing, which is information that would have been useful about 45 minutes before Karen's son pressed the power button. The toilet trapway is a 2-inch passage at the base of the bowl that makes an S-curve before entering the drain. An obstruction in this passage requires either positive pressure from a plunger or mechanical disruption from an auger. Suction applied at the bowl surface cannot reach or affect an obstruction in the trapway geometry, not because of any deficiency in the vacuum's suction, but because of basic spatial relationships between the hose position and the clog location. A wet, dry vac hose inserted into a toilet bowl and activated pulls bowl water and everything in it directly into the vacuum's drum, filter, and motor pathway. Sewage contamination of a wet, dry vac renders it a biohazard requiring specialized cleaning or disposal. A toilet auger, the correct tool for toilet obstructions, costs $30 to $60 at any hardware store and is specifically designed to navigate the toilet's internal trapway geometry. The water across the bathroom floor resulted from the vacuum's suction pulling bowl water over the rim when the hose seal was imperfect. Using a shop vac to unclog a toilet is the mechanical logic of using a hairdryer to defrost a frozen lock. You've created a problem significantly worse than the original. 25. Karen's handyman installed PVC pipe on a hot water branch line to save money versus CPVC. She is reporting back that the solution worked fine for 8 months, and she is now asking the plumber to repair the softened, deformed section of pipe that failed at a joint last week, while also processing the information that this outcome was somehow avoidable. PVC pipe has a continuous service temperature rating of 140 degrees Fahrenheit maximum. Residential hot water supply is typically set at 120 degrees, close enough that any temperature variation, pressure spike, or moment of high demand tips PVC past its rated limit. CPVC exists for exactly this reason, and this price difference between them is not an engineering suggestion. It is the cost of using the correct material. PVC begins to soften at temperatures above 140 degrees and loses structural integrity at pipe joints. Specifically, the glued socket joints are the failure point in hot water PVC installations because joint cement cure strength degrades faster than pipe wall strength at elevated temperature. CPVC is chemically modified to raise its continuous service temperature to 200 degrees Fahrenheit for hot water applications. The two materials look nearly identical and are not interchangeable. Water heater temperature settings are commonly raised above 120 degrees by homeowners concerned about Legionella bacteria. A PVC hot water line in a home where the heater is turned up for any reason is immediately operating above rated temperature without anyone issuing a warning. Building codes in virtually every jurisdiction explicitly prohibit PVC for hot water supply lines. An unpermitted repair using PVC on a hot water line is a code violation requiring correction. Installing PVC on a hot water line to save money is like buying regular tires for a performance vehicle because they're cheaper. They fit, they look right, they work until the conditions they weren't rated for arrive. 26. Karen has siliconed over the overflow drain plate on her bathtub to allow the tub to fill higher because she wants a deeper bath. The overflow drain is in her assessment an optional feature she has elected to disable, and the plumber discovering this while investigating a water damage complaint below the bathroom is making it into a much bigger issue than she intended when she purchased the silicone. The overflow drain is a flood prevention device connected to the drain pipe, and it exists specifically to prevent the scenario that created the water damage Karen just called about. She disabled the safety feature and is expressing surprise at the outcome of disabling the safety feature, which is a level of surprise that takes genuine commitment to sustain. The overflow drain is positioned approximately 1 to 2 inches below the tub rim and connects directly to the drain line via the overflow tube behind the tub apron. It allows the tub to fill to a safe level while providing an emergency drain path if filling continues unattended. Siliconing over the overflow opening does not disable the underlying connection. The overflow tube behind the tub panel remains open. But it does prevent water from entering the overflow when the tub overfills, eliminating the only automatic intervention between a full tub and a flooded floor. A tub that overflows onto a tile floor introduces water through grout lines around the tub perimeter and into the subfloor cavity below. A single overflow event can saturate the subfloor and ceiling below, causing the exact water staining and structural damage Karen's neighbor is now experiencing with opinions about it. Plumbing codes classify the overflow drain as a required safety device in every jurisdiction. Siliconing over the tub overflow drain to get a deeper bath is the home modification equivalent of disabling the overflow sensor in your washing machine so you can wash larger loads. The sensor was annoying you on purpose. 27, Karen paid a premium for a 75-gallon water heater because more is always better. She never wants to run out of hot water again. And the plumber's suggestion that a 75-gallon unit is oversized for her two-person household is an attempt to sell her a cheaper unit rather than a genuine technical observation worth considering before the installation is complete. An oversized water heater heats and maintains a volume of water your household never uses, paying to keep 35 extra gallons of water hot 24 hours a day, every single day, for the entire service life of the appliance. It is a daily energy tax on the refusal to accept that two people do not require the hot water infrastructure of a mid-sized hotel. Water heaters lose heat through tank walls continuously, called standby heat loss, at a rate of approximately 1 degree Fahrenheit per hour depending on insulation quality and ambient temperature. A 75-gallon tank loses significantly more heat per day than a 40-gallon tank simply due to greater surface area and water volume doing nothing for anyone. The Department of Energy's first-hour rating system measures how many gallons of hot water a heater can deliver in the first hour of use. For 2 adults, the recommended first-hour rating is 40 to 50 gallons, well within a 40-gallon unit's capability without any creative engineering. A properly sized water heater for a two-person home costs less to purchase, less to install, and less to operate annually. The DOE estimates that right-sizing a water heater saves $30 to $60 per year in energy costs, which compounds across a 10-year appliance lifespan into a real number. Buying a 75-gallon water heater for 2 people because bigger is better is the appliance logic of buying a commercial 48-cup coffee maker for your apartment. You solved an imaginary problem, created a real energy bill, and the coffee maker occupies counter space that used to hold your better judgment. 28, Karen called the plumbing company back after the repair to report that her dishwasher is now making a noise it wasn't making before. She has concluded that shutting off the main water supply during the repair voided her dishwasher's warranty and damaged the appliance. And she expects the plumbing company to cover the dishwasher replacement because the timeline is clear and the logic is, in her view, airtight. No appliance warranty contains a clause voiding coverage due to water main shutoff. Main water shutoffs are standard, documented, industry universal procedures performed hundreds of thousands of times daily across the country. They are also the only way a plumber performs a pressurized water repair without flooding your utility room, which is why the shutoff happened in the first place and why declining it is not a neutral option. When a water main is restored after a shutoff, residual air and supply lines purges through the first fixtures used, manifesting as sputtering, brief vibration, or gurgling that resolves within 1 to 3 uses as air is expelled from the system. A dishwasher that sounds different after a main shutoff and restoration is almost certainly experiencing the air purge phenomenon through its water inlet valve. This resolves on its own within 1 or 2 wash cycles and requires no intervention, invoice, or replacement appliance. A dishwasher making noise unrelated to air purge, bearing noise, pump noise, spray arm deterioration, has a failure timeline measured in months or years of accumulated wear, not in the hours since a water main was shut off for a completely unrelated repair across the house. Major appliance manufacturers including Bosch, Whirlpool, and Miele explicitly state in their installation documentation that water supply interruption and restoration does not damage appliance water inlet systems under normal operating conditions. Blaming the plumber for the dishwasher noise because they shut off the main is the warranty logic of blaming your eye doctor for your car's check engine light because the appointment was on the same day. 29. Karen is timing the plumber on her phone. She watched a 7-minute YouTube tutorial on this exact repair. The plumber is taking 90 minutes, and she would like to know what specifically is taking so long. Stated in a tone that communicates, she already knows the answer and has decided it is laziness before the question has finished leaving her mouth. A 7-minute YouTube video was filmed by someone who pre-staged the repair, edited out every complication, selected a cooperative pipe that had been installed minutes before recording, and stopped filming before cleanup, permit documentation, or the 3 things that went wrong off camera. It is a highlight reel. It is not a time standard. YouTube plumbing tutorials are produced for engagement. They universally omit the diagnostic phase, material selection decisions, pre-existing condition management, safety preparation, and cleanup. The components that constitute the majority of real-world repair time in an actual home that has been occupied for actual decades. Soldering copper joints requires flux application, heat application to both the fitting and pipe simultaneously, solder feeding, cooling time, and pressure testing before the joint is confirmed watertight. Rushing any step produces a cold joint that fails immediately or a pinholes under pressure, the opposite of saving time. A plumber working in a home is subject to OSHA safety standards, insurance requirements, and liability exposure. Working at a pace that compromises quality or safety is a financial risk to the company, not a scheduling optimization that Karen is owed. The actual time distribution of a residential plumbing service call, arrival and diagnosis constitute 15 to 25%. Material retrieval from the truck 10 to 15%, preparation and protection 10 to 20%, actual repair work 30 to 40%, testing and verification 10 to 15%, cleanup and documentation 5 to 10%. The YouTube video showed only the repair portion. Timing a plumber against a tutorial is the performance review equivalent of timing a surgeon against a medical school demonstration video. 30. Karen has black growth along her tub caulk, grout lines, and the base of the shower wall. She describes this as normal bathroom mold that every bathroom gets and cleans periodically, and the plumber noting that the extent of growth suggests water intrusion behind the tile is catastrophizing a cosmetic issue that she has been managing with a spray bottle and good intentions for several years. Surface mold on caulk is a cleaning issue. Black growth colonizing grout lines that extend behind tile and into wall cavities is a structural moisture problem that mold is advertising with increasing urgency. The mold is not the problem. The mold is the symptom of the problem the plumber just identified, and the spray bottle has been treating the billboard, not the message. Grout is porous. Water that penetrates grout lines in a shower or tub surround reaches the substrate beneath, typically cement board or moisture-resistant drywall, and saturates it over months to years of every shower taken in that space. Tile that sounds hollow when tapped has separated from its backing, indicating substrate deterioration from sustained moisture intrusion. Mold growth behind tile is not visible from the surface. By the time mold appears extensively on grout lines, the colonization behind the wall may be measured in square feet. The surface growth is the frontier of a much larger colony that has been expanding in darkness every time steam entered the grout. Remediation of mold in tile wall cavities requires tile removal, substrate replacement, mold treatment of framing, and retiling. A project costing $2,000 to $8,000 depending on scope. This is the cost of a grout sealing and caulk replacement deferred for 5 to 7 years. The annual maintenance protocol costs $200 to $500 cumulative. Calling black grout mold normal bathroom stuff is the home maintenance equivalent of calling a persistent cough a normal winter thing for 3 consecutive years. 31. Karen is on a private well. She dismisses all plumbing leak concerns with the observation that well water doesn't appear on a utility bill. Leaks are therefore only a financial concern for city water customers, and she is immune to the economics of water waste because free is free and she has a well. Well, water is not free. It costs electricity to pump, infrastructure to maintain, and pump motor lifespan to burn through. A leak on a well system runs the pump continuously, destroys the motor through short cycling, and can draw the well below the pump intake level, converting a free resource into an emergency replacement cost that starts at $800 and climbs based on how far underground your pump lives. Private well water is delivered by a submersible or jet pump that consumes electricity every time it runs. A leak that prevents the pressure tank from maintaining pressure causes the pump to cycle on and off repeatedly, called short cycling, which is the single most destructive operational mode for a pump motor. Well, pump motors are sized for a specific number of run cycles per day. Short cycling from a pressure system leak can exceed the design cycle rate by 10 to 20 times, burning out motor windings in weeks rather than the pump's rated 10 to 15 year lifespan. Pump replacement for a submersible. Well pump installed 100 to 400 feet underground costs $800 to $2,500 depending on depth and pump size. A simple pressure tank bladder replacement at $200 to $400 or a leak repair would have prevented this entirely. Private well systems have no metering, meaning a serious leak is invisible on any statement and could run for months before the pump failure reveals it. Annual pressure system testing is the only detection mechanism available to you. Saying, well, water leaks don't matter because the water is free is like saying your generator fuel is free because you stored it. The generator has a lifespan. Running it unnecessarily burns both. 32. Karen uses a brand of cat litter marketed as flushable. She has been disposing of it via toilet for 2 years. She is now dealing with a main sewer backup, and she is certain it is unrelated to the cat litter because the package says flushable. And the package was very clear about this when she read it at the store 2 years ago and has not questioned it since. Flushable cat litter clears the toilet because it passes through the 3-inch toilet drain opening. What happens in the 50 feet of 4-inch pipe between the toilet and the city sewer is not on the package label, has never been on the package label, and the plumber pulling clumped litter from the line is not interested in a discussion about what the packaging promised. Clay-based cat litter, which represents the majority of the market including most flushable varieties, is composed of sodium bentonite, the same material used to seal earthen dams and pond liners because of its extraordinary capacity to absorb water and expand into a dense, impermeable gel. Sodium bentonite litter flushed into drain lines absorbs moisture from the pipe environment and expands, adhering to pipe walls and any existing scale, root intrusion, or debris to form a progressively hardening accumulation that standard, mechanical snaking cannot break apart. The New York City Department of Environmental Protection explicitly prohibits flushing cat litter and lists it among the top causes of residential sewer backups in the borough. Water utilities in California, Michigan, and New York have published homeowner advisories specifically against flushing cat litter, regardless of marketing claims, with some utilities imposing fines for repeat infractions. Even natural, biodegradable, flushable litters made from corn, wheat, or pine clump in water before biodegrading, entering the drain as a solid mass and lodging at the first point of restriction. Trusting that cat litter is safe to flush because the bag says so is the same due diligence as trusting a used car because the seller seemed confident. 33. Karen's water bill has increased 40% over 3 months. She has walked through every room, looked under every sink, inspected every visible fixture, found nothing dripping, and has therefore concluded that there is no leak and her water utility is billing her incorrectly. The plumber has been called to document this position for her dispute with the utility, which she considers a formality before her inevitable victory. The most expensive plumbing leaks are the ones you cannot see. Slab leaks, underground supply line failures, irrigation system failures, and toilet flapper leaks all waste thousands of gallons monthly without producing any visible water anywhere you are willing to look. The definitive homeowner leak test requires reading the water meter, using 0 water for 2 hours, and reading the meter again. Any movement confirms an active leak regardless of what your visual walkthrough produced. This test takes 2 hours and no tools, which is why it hasn't been performed. Toilet flappers can leak at rates of 200 or more gallons per day into the bowl without any visible overflow or audible running. The fill valve tops off the tank continuously and the entire waste stream goes directly down the drain, silent and invisible. Slab leaks in supply lines embedded in concrete migrate through the foundation and either dissipate into the soil below or surface at a location far from the actual leak point. Underground supply line failures on the service line, between the water meter and the house, percolate downward in permeable soil for months without surfacing. Irrigation system leaks from broken heads or failed zone valves run only during scheduled cycles, often at night, wasting 200 gallons per irrigation event, without leaving any evidence you'd notice during a daytime walkthrough. Water utility billing errors are statistically rare. The overwhelming majority of sudden bill increases confirmed by utilities trace back to toilet flappers and slab leaks. The meter keeps moving while Karen is on hold. 34. Karen's bathroom addition was built by a handyman who skipped the plumbing vent stack to save time and wall space. The drains appear to work. Karen considers this a validation that vents are optional engineering over engineering, and the plumber raising code compliance concerns is creating problems where the drains themselves have demonstrated none exist by continuing to drain. Drain vents are not optional engineering. They are the mechanism by which your drain system maintains atmospheric pressure balance. Without them, drain traps siphon dry, sewer gas enters the living space, and drains gurgle, slow, and ultimately fail. all of which are already happening in Karen's addition, which she has described as working fine in a conversation that also included the words, "that weird gurgling," and "a smell sometimes." Drain waste vent systems operate on the principle of atmospheric pressure equalization. Every time water flows down a drain, it creates a vacuum behind it. The vent system introduces air behind the moving water column to prevent that vacuum from siphoning the water out of trap seals. When a drain trap loses its water seal through siphoning in an unvented system, the P-trap empties and creates an open connection between the drain pipe and the living space. Drain gurgling, the distinctive sound Karen described as not being a big deal, is the audible signature of a siphoning drain. It is the trap failing in real time, not a personality quirk of the new edition. The International Plumbing Code requires vent pipes for every fixture drain. This requirement exists in every jurisdiction in the country and has existed in some form since the 1890s, when the connection between trap siphoning and household illness from sewer gas was established. The handyman who skipped the vents created an unpermitted, non-compliant installation that requires wall demolition to correct. Saying drain vents are optional because your drains work is like saying seatbelts are optional because you haven't crashed yet. 35. Karen's neighbor had what Karen describes as the same thing fixed for significantly less money by a different company. Karen presents this as evidence of price gouging. She expects the current plumber to match the neighbor's price retroactively, and she describes the jobs as identical based on her neighbor's account of what happened, which is the account of someone who also has no technical knowledge of what actually happened. Two plumbing repairs described by homeowners as the same thing are almost never the same thing. Access conditions, pipe materials, permit requirements, parts quality, warranty terms, and company overhead are all variables that Karen's neighbor's story did not include because Karen's neighbor was also not present for the technical portion of their own service call. Plumbing service pricing varies by company licensing level and insurance coverage, technician certification level, parts quality ranging from OEM to builder grade, warranty duration offered, permit inclusion, disposal fees, travel distance, and regional labor market rates, none of which appear in a neighbor's casual summary of their experience. Unlicensed or minimally insured contractors systematically undercut licensed operators by eliminating licensing fees, insurance premiums, permit costs, and training investment. A price comparison between a licensed master plumber and an unlicensed handyman is not a comparison of equivalent services. It is a comparison of different products with identical packaging. The neighbor's lower price may also reflect deferred scope, a cheaper job that omits code-required work, uses builder-grade parts with 90-day lifespans, or skips the permit inspection that would have caught the installation. Deficiency will generate a follow-up service call that eliminates the original savings in one afternoon. Price transparency in plumbing is the homeowner's responsibility during the bidding phase, not after service delivery. Demanding a price match based on your neighbor's description of their repair is the negotiation equivalent of demanding a restaurant match the price your friend paid at a different restaurant for basically the same pasta. 36. Karen has a specific and efficient grease disposal ritual. Cooking grease down the drain followed by 30 seconds of hot tap water. She learned this from her mother. She has done it for 20 years. It has been a point of consistency in an otherwise chaotic world, and the plumber explaining why her kitchen line is blocked is contradicting decades of inherited domestic wisdom and is therefore probably wrong. Running hot water after pouring grease does not prevent grease buildup. It relocates grease buildup from the drain opening to a point 15 to 30 feet into the pipe where no plunger, no snake, and no amount of family tradition can reach it without professional equipment and an invoice that will exceed the cost of every meal whose grease started this conversation. Kitchen drain lines in a typical home run 20 to 40 feet before reaching the main stack. Water temperature drops dramatically over that distance, resolidifying grease in the horizontal runs where it accumulates fastest and where drain slope is lowest. Grease does not flow as a pure liquid. It adheres to pipe walls in layers that accumulate over time. Each grease event adds a layer. Each layer narrows the pipe. The pipe fails suddenly after years of progressive narrowing when the final layer closes it, usually during a dinner party or on a Sunday evening when emergency rates apply. Commercial kitchen regulations require grease interceptors on all cooking equipment drains precisely because the industry knows hot water doesn't neutralize grease accumulation. This knowledge is codified in law for restaurants and ignored by homeowners citing their mothers. The city of Los Angeles estimated in 2019 that over 60% of its residential sewer overflows were attributable to fats, oils, and grease discharged by households. The correct protocol is dry wiping cookware before washing and disposing of grease in a sealed container in the trash. Pouring hot water after grease is like smoking a cigarette and drinking water to counteract it. The grease is somewhere you can't see it, it's building, and it's been there for 20 years. 37 copper pipes are indestructible. Karen's home has original copper from 1962. She cites this proudly as evidence that no pipe inspection is necessary, and the fact that the pipes have been standing for 60 years is, in her assessment, all the proof anyone should need that they are fine and will continue to be fine indefinitely without anyone looking at them. Copper is exceptionally durable under ideal conditions. Inside the walls of a 60-year-old home subjected to 6 decades of water chemistry, pressure cycling, and soil movement, still standing is not the same sentence as in good condition, and the gap between those two sentences is where pipe failures live. Copper pipe corrosion occurs from the inside through 2 primary mechanisms. Erosion corrosion, where turbulent water flow thins pipe walls at elbows and tees, and pitting corrosion, where localized electrochemical attack creates pinhole leaks. Both invisible from the exterior until the pipe fails into your wall cavity. Pinhole leaks in copper pipe have been documented as an epidemic in specific regions linked to water chemistry interactions, specifically chloramines in municipal water reacting with copper to form soluble copper chloride, thinning pipe walls from the inside across systems installed decades before chloramine disinfection became standard. The chloramine transition intensified after the 1990s when water utilities switched from chlorine. Copper pipes installed before this chemistry change were not designed for it, and many systems began failing at 30 to 50 years rather than the theoretical 70-plus year lifespan that Karen is currently citing as a guarantee. Solder joints in copper systems installed before 1986 use lead tin solder that leaches lead into drinking water at rates that increase as the joint ages. A proper copper pipe condition assessment uses ultrasonic thickness testing, a non-invasive tool measuring remaining pipe wall thickness without cutting anything. A 60-year-old system that has never been assessed is a system whose condition is genuinely unknown, not confirmed fine. 38. Karen's hot water is slow to arrive at her master bath. She has turned up her water heater temperature 3 times, trying to fix the delivery time. Each increase has made the water hotter when it arrives without changing how long it takes to arrive, and she now wants the water heater replaced with a more powerful unit because clearly the current one is not trying hard enough. Hot water delivery time is determined by pipe distance and volume, not water heater output temperature or BTU rating. A more powerful water heater will heat water hotter and faster inside the tank. It will not change the volume of cold water sitting in 60 feet of pipe between the tank and your faucet that must be completely purged before hot water reaches you. That volume is a physics problem, not an appliance problem, and no water heater on the market has solved physics. Delivery time is straightforward to calculate. A half-inch pipe run of 50 feet holds approximately half a gallon of water. At 1.5 gallons per minute faucet flow, that is 20 seconds of purge time at minimum, even with instantaneous heating at the source. Increasing water heater temperature does not increase the speed at which hot water travels through the pipe. Water velocity in a supply line is determined by pressure, not temperature. Turning up the heater does not make the water move faster. It makes the water that eventually arrives hotter, which is a different outcome from the one Karen is trying to achieve. A recirculating hot water system, a dedicated return loop with a pump, circulates hot water continuously through the supply line, keeping hot water present at all fixtures and eliminating delivery time entirely. On-demand recirculation systems cost $200 to $500 installed. Replacing the water heater with a higher capacity unit addresses recovery rate, which is a different problem. Turning up the water heater to get faster delivery is like turning up your car's RPM in park to make it drive faster. 39. Karen read about gray water recycling, has rigged her washing machine discharge to irrigate her vegetable garden directly, considers this environmentally responsible and ahead of her time, and the plumber observing this during a service call and noting the code implications is being an obstacle to sustainability rather than a participant in the solution Karen has already implemented without input from anyone. Gray water reuse is a legitimate and increasingly legal practice, but it requires proper treatment, application restrictions, and system design to prevent the real pathogen load present in laundry discharge from contaminating edible crops, soil, and the groundwater beneath them. Gray water from washing machines is not clean water. It contains soap residue, surfactants, human skin cells, bacteria, fecal coliform from washing underwear and soiled clothing, food particles, and, in households with young children, measurable concentrations of pathogens that your vegetable garden is now receiving on a watering schedule. Laundry machine discharge specifically contains the highest pathogen load of any gray water source due to washing soiled clothing and undergarments. Studies measuring fecal indicator bacteria in laundry effluent find concentrations comparable to secondary sewage treatment effluent, which is not a description of something you route directly to tomatoes. Direct application of untreated laundry gray water to vegetable crops is prohibited in virtually every state gray water code because it creates a direct fecal-oral contamination pathway. Legal gray water reuse systems in states that permit them require subsurface drip irrigation, minimum soil setbacks from edible crops, no ponding or runoff, and application only to non-edible landscape or specifically permitted crops. Surfactants in laundry gray water alter soil chemistry over time, increasing sodium content in ways that progressively damage soil structure and plant root systems. A DIY gray water connection that bypasses the permitted drain system is an unpermitted modification requiring disclosure on home sale. Pouring laundry discharge on your vegetable garden and calling it sustainable is the environmental logic of drinking from a stream because it looks clean. 40. Karen has noticed the dial on her water meter spinning continuously even when she believes no water is being used. She has contacted the utility to report a meter malfunction. The utility has verified the meter is functioning correctly, and Karen has called the plumber to support her position that the meter is wrong, which is a position that requires the meter, the utility, and basic hydraulic physics to all be mistaken simultaneously. A spinning water meter with all fixtures off is not a malfunctioning meter. It is a leak detector doing exactly what it was designed to do, detecting flow through the service line, and it is currently reporting an active problem that is costing Karen money while she prepares her case against the equipment. Water meters measure flow through the service line with mechanical or electronic precision. They are calibrated and tested by utilities and have documented accuracy within 1 to 2% across their operational range. They do not spin without water moving through them. The standard homeowner leak test requires recording the meter reading, using 0 water for 2 hours with all fixtures off and appliances idle, then rereading the meter. Any movement confirms active flow through the service line, regardless of what a visual walkthrough of the home produced. The leak indicator on modern water meters, a small triangle or dial that rotates with even minimal flow, is specifically designed to detect small leaks invisible in the main odometer numbers. A continuously spinning meter indicates one of 4 things: an active fixture leak, an irrigation zone stuck open, a slab leak in the supply line under the foundation, or a leak in the service line between the meter and the house. Every one of which is a real leak, none of which is a meter malfunction. The meter is the messenger. Calling a spinning water meter. Malfunction when all your fixtures are off is like calling your fuel gauge broken because it shows empty after hours of driving. 41. Karen's son attempted to snake the main sewer line with a 15-foot hand snake purchased from a discount hardware store after watching a 12-minute tutorial, and the plumber has arrived to find the snake head lodged in the pipe. This situation is being presented to the plumber as his problem to solve, and there is an undercurrent of expectation that solving it should not cost more than the original snake clearing would have. Consumer drain snakes are designed for minor fixture clogs within arm's reach of the drain. A main sewer line is 50 to 100 feet of 4-inch pipe that requires a motorized professional snake or water jetter, the skills to operate it without catastrophizing the situation, and the judgment to stop before turning a clog into a recovery operation. Consumer hand snakes are typically 15 to 25 feet of 1/4-inch cable, adequate for bathroom drain clogs at the P-trap or in a short horizontal branch line. They reach approximately 15% of a typical main sewer line's length before running out of cable in the middle of the problem. A motorized professional drum machine uses 3/8 to 1/2-inch cable with cutting heads rotating at up to 600 RPM. Operating this equipment without training in pipe material identification, cable management, and head selection causes cable breakage, pipe damage, and precisely the cable retrieval emergency the plumber is now looking at in Karen's main line. When an amateur snake cable breaks or becomes tangled and is abandoned in a pipe obstruction, retrieval requires either camera-guided snake retrieval tools or excavation, turning a $200 clearing job into a $2,000 or more emergency with a timeline measured in excavation scheduling. YouTube plumbing tutorials are produced for engagement. They systematically omit the diagnostic steps, safety protocols, and failure modes that trained technicians learn over years of supervised fieldwork. Watching a snake tutorial and attempting a main sewer line is the same logic as watching a surgery video and offering to help in the operating room. You've made the professional's job significantly worse. 42. Karen has declined water softener recommendations for 3 consecutive plumbing visits, considers hard water a plumbing industry scam designed to sell equipment, her water looks clear, it tastes fine, and she does not understand why the plumber keeps bringing up something she has already decided is not real each time he comes to replace another appliance that hard water has destroyed on schedule. Hard water is defined by measurable mineral concentration, calcium and magnesium ions in parts per million, measured by a test, not assessed by appearance or taste. It is not an opinion, it is a chemistry reading, and it is destroying Karen's water heater, shower heads, and appliances on a documented timeline that the plumber has now witnessed across 3 separate service calls involving 3 separate appliances. Water hardness above 7 grains per gallon, classified as hard by the Water Quality Association, causes measurable scale deposition inside water heaters at a rate that reduces heating efficiency by 24% per inch of scale buildup, according to the Department of Energy. A 2009 Battelle Memorial Institute study found that water heaters operating on hard water required 29 to 48% more energy to heat the same amount of water and had significantly reduced lifespans compared to units on softened water. Showerhead flow restriction from hard water scale accumulation is measurable within 18 months in hard water regions. The scale forms inside the orifices and is not removable by soaking alone once fully mineralized. Dishwasher interior scale deposits accelerate heating element failure and leave mineral film on glassware that no detergent removes. The U.S. Geological Survey classifies approximately 85% of American water supplies as hard to very hard. This is not a regional oddity or a sales construct. Calling hard water a sales myth is like calling rust a car dealership conspiracy. The mineral is real, the damage is real, the only thing being sold is the solution. 43. Karen has been pouring boiling water directly into her toilet bowl to clear a clog she read about on a home remedies website. She has attempted this 3 times. The toilet is now less functional than when she started, and she wants to know why the plumber's professional solution costs more than a kettle. While also not yet knowing about the crack she hasn't found yet, boiling water poured directly into a porcelain toilet bowl can thermally shock the vitreous china, cracking the bowl or the trapway built into the base. The clog is still present. The toilet may now also be cracked. These are 2 problems where there was 1 achieved through the application of a home remedy that was confidently wrong in a way that costs significantly more to correct than the original blockage. Vitreous china, the ceramic material used in toilets, is extremely susceptible to thermal shock. Rapid temperature change creates differential expansion stress between the cooler interior and the rapidly heated surface, and the resulting crack propagates through the ceramic and is not repairable. The toilet trapway, the S-shaped internal passage in the porcelain base, is the thinnest section of the casting and the most vulnerable to thermal shock. A crack there means complete toilet replacement, not a patch. Boiling water at 212 degrees poured into a cold toilet in a 68-degree bathroom represents a temperature differential of 144 degrees, well within the thermal shock failure range for thin-section ceramics. The correct approach involves warm water added to increase water column weight combined with plunger use, an entirely different technique that does not involve kettle temperature water. Toilet clogs occur in the trapway or in the drain line 4 to 6 inches downstream. Boiling water cannot dissolve solid waste, non-flushable items, or root intrusions. Pouring boiling water into your toilet to clear a clog is the home remedy equivalent of using a blowtorch to defrost your windshield, effective in theory. Catastrophic in practice. Now you have 2 problems. 44. Karen needs the plumber to replace a faucet. She has assured him the shut-off valve under the sink works fine. She turned it herself a few years ago. The plumber attempts to close the valve and it snaps off in his hand. And this is apparently the plumber's fault for turning a valve in the direction valves are designed to be turned, with force consistent with normal valve operation. Angle stop valves, the small shut-off valves under sinks and behind toilets, are among the most neglected components in residential plumbing. A valve that has not been exercised in years corrodes, seizes, and fails at the precise moment you need it most, which is always during a repair and never during a calm afternoon when you decided to test it proactively. Standard angle stop valves use a packing nut and stem assembly. The packing material dries and hardens when the valve is left in one position for extended periods, bonding the stem to the valve body. Attempting to turn a seized stem applies torque the corroded body cannot handle, and the most common failure mode is stem break. The stem snaps at the corrosion point, leaving the valve body still attached to the supply line with water now flowing through an uncontrollable valve. A failed angle stop with flowing water requires immediate main shutoff and replacement of the angle stop. If the main shutoff is also seized, extremely common in older homes, emergency street valve shutoff is required, transforming a 30-minute faucet replacement into a multi-hour emergency with a corresponding invoice. Angle stops should be tested annually, fully closed and reopened, to prevent seizure. This is a maintenance step that appears in virtually no homeowner documentation and is performed by approximately 3% of homeowners, all of whom are very smug about it. Telling a plumber the shutoff valve definitely works when you last touched it during a different presidential administration is like handing someone a fire extinguisher you bought in 1994 and promising it still works. 45. Karen's basement has a persistent sulfur-like odor she attributes to a smelly drain. She has been masking it with air freshener for several months. The plumber diagnosing it as a potential dry pee trap or sewer gas issue is dramatically overreacting to a normal house smell, and she would like the plumber to confirm that the candle she purchased is an adequate solution to the problem he is describing. Sewer gas is not a smell nuisance. It is a mixture of hydrogen sulfide, methane, ammonia, and carbon dioxide. At sufficient concentrations, it is toxic, explosive, and a documented cause of residential fatalities. Karen's air freshener is masking the symptom of a situation that has a specific and dangerous set of consequences if the source is not identified and addressed. Methane, a primary constituent of sewer gas, is explosive in air concentrations between 5 and 15%. In a sealed basement with a failed P-trap, accumulation to these levels is physically possible under the right conditions of ventilation, volume, and leak rate. Hydrogen sulfide, the compound producing the rotten egg odor, is acutely toxic at concentrations above 100 parts per million, causing rapid unconsciousness, and is immediately dangerous at 500 parts per million. It is also olfactory fatiguing, meaning prolonged exposure destroys your ability to smell it, creating a false sense that the smell went away when in fact your nose has simply stopped reporting. The National Fire Protection Association documents multiple residential methane-related explosion events annually, tracing back to failed or dry P-traps in floor drains and seldom used fixtures. A dry P-trap is the most common cause of sewer gas infiltration and costs nothing to fix. Pour water into the drain and reseal the trap. Cracked main sewer lines require camera inspection to identify. Calling sewer gas just the drain smell and covering it with an air freshener is like putting a watch your step sign over a structural floor collapse. The sign acknowledges the problem while doing absolutely nothing about it. 46. Karen's shower pressure has dropped noticeably, but other fixtures seem acceptable. She considers this a localized shower issue. She is skeptical of the plumber's suggestion to test pressure at multiple points throughout the house, and she would like the plumber to fix the shower specifically and leave the rest of the house's plumbing out of a conversation she came here to keep narrow. Low pressure at one fixture is either localized to that fixture or systemic and beginning to manifest at the most flow-demanding point first. Diagnosing it as just the shower without testing other points is like treating one symptom while ignoring the condition causing all of them. Occasionally correct, and occasionally the reason you called the same plumber back in 2 months for something that was connected all along. Shower pressure drop can indicate a clogged shower head with mineral scale in the orifices, a $15 fix requiring no plumber, a failing shower valve cartridge, a restricted half-inch branch line, or a systemic pressure issue beginning to manifest at the highest demand fixture before becoming apparent at lower flow fixtures. Pressure-reducing valve failure affects whole house pressure, but often presents first at showers before becoming apparent at bathroom sink faucets. Testing only at the shower misses this diagnosis entirely. Whole house pressure drop can indicate supply line scale restriction, a water meter with restricted flow, a utility issue, not a plumbing issue, or a failing municipal pressure zone. Tandem fixture pressure drop the shower pressure dropping when a toilet flushes, specifically indicates undersized branch line supply or a failing pressure balancing valve, both requiring diagnosis beyond the shower head. Proper pressure diagnostics require gauge readings at the main, at a branch point, and at the fixture to isolate where the loss occurs. A 15-minute process Karen is declining to allow. Telling the plumber to just fix the shower pressure without diagnosing the system is the same instruction as telling a doctor to fix the headache without checking your blood pressure. 47. Karen's toilets flush and water goes down all her drains, therefore the sewer line is fine. The camera inspection a previous plumber recommended is just a way to bill an extra hour, and Karen is prepared to repeat this position across multiple plumbing visits until the day the sewer line fails, and she has to explain to someone why she declined every opportunity to find out what was in it. A toilet flushing confirms that water moves through your sewer line at the current flow rate. It says nothing about the condition of the line, the percentage of its capacity being consumed, or whether a partial obstruction is 2 inches or 2 weeks from complete failure. These are not the same piece of information, and treating them as equivalent is how people discover sewer problems from the inside of their home rather than from a report. Sewer lines fail progressively, not instantly. A line can operate at 30 to 40% of its capacity for months while accumulating root intrusion, grease, and debris before any flush symptom appears. The first symptom, a slow drain or backup, represents the final 10% of capacity loss, not the beginning. Root intrusion enters through pipe joints at 1 to 2 inches per month. A 4-inch pipe with 3 inches of root growth has 25% of its bore remaining, flushes a toilet normally, and is weeks from a complete blockage. Sewer lines can have open cracks, offset joints where ground movement has shifted sections, and belly sections where solids accumulate, all while allowing essentially normal flow and representing severe structural failure requiring excavation. Camera inspection generates video documentation of the actual condition. Insurance documentation for sewer repairs typically requires camera footage. Without it, many policies will not cover the repair. Saying the sewer line is fine because the toilet flushes is like saying your roof is fine because it's not raining in the living room yet. 48. Karen is furious that the plumber mentioned a permit for her water heater replacement. Because it is just a water heater in the same location, same size, same everything, permits are for additions and renovations, not maintenance, and the plumber is creating unnecessary bureaucracy around a transaction that should be as simple as buying a replacement appliance and having it installed without government involvement in her utility room. Water heater replacement is a permitted plumbing activity in virtually every jurisdiction in the country. A water heater installed without a permit is uninsured, uninspected for safety compliance, and a material defect that must be disclosed on home sale. 3 outcomes that cost significantly more than the permit fee Karen is objecting to, which in most jurisdictions is $50 to $150. Water heater installation requires inspection of the temperature and pressure relief valve, discharge line routing, seismic strapping in applicable zones, gas connection integrity, and venting for gas units. All safety components that inspectors specifically check and that are frequently installed incorrectly by contractors cutting costs. An improperly installed temperature and pressure relief valve or a missing discharge line represents a legitimate explosion hazard. A water heater with a failed relief valve under thermal runaway can generate tank pressure exceeding 150 pounds per square inch, causing catastrophic structural failure. This is not a hypothetical scenario that inspections are invented to address. Gas water heater venting errors, improper flue slope, inadequate clearance, wrong vent diameter, can cause carbon monoxide backdrafting into the living space, which is a documented cause of residential fatality. A water heater installed without a permit discovered through home inspection or insurance claim must be removed and reinstalled with inspection at the homeowner's cost, regardless of when the original work was done. Skipping the permit because it's just a water heater is the same logic as skipping the seatbelt because you're just going around the corner. 49. Karen's home is 3 years old. She is therefore surprised and skeptical that she has a plumbing issue. Requiring professional attention, new homes don't have plumbing problems, the system is 3 years old. Something must have been done wrong for this to be happening, and whoever is responsible should pay for it. A position she is prepared to hold until someone explains to her which human installed her plumbing and under what production conditions. New construction plumbing is installed by humans under production pressure, inspected at a single point in time, and then subjected to real-world conditions involving actual water chemistry, actual use patterns, and actual mechanical stress that the inspection did not replicate. It produces plumbing failures, frequently within the first 5 years, from causes that have nothing to do with defective materials and everything to do with the pace of production home construction. The most common new construction plumbing defects emerge in years 1 through 5. Improperly soldered joints that pass pressure testing but develop pinhole leaks under thermal cycling. Push-fit fittings not fully seated that hold initially before failing progressively. And supply lines with inadequate support that develop fatigue cracks at movement points. Builder-grade fixtures and valves, standard in production homes, are specified to minimize construction cost. Builder-grade faucet cartridges, fill valves, and shut-off valves frequently carry 1-year warranties and are replaced by homeowners within 3 to 5 years. PEX crimp fittings installed at production pace may have crimps slightly out of specification, within the visual pass threshold but below the mechanical hold specification, holding through the pressure test and through months of service before failing under cumulative pressure cycling. Most builder warranties cover major structural defects for 10 years, but limit plumbing coverage to 1 to 2 years for systems and 1 year for fixtures. The 10-year expectation Karen is citing is not supported by her actual warranty documents, which are in a drawer she has not opened. 50. Karen called for a quote. Before allowing a plumber to come out, the plumber won't commit to a price without seeing the job. She already told them what the problem is. She just wants a number, and the refusal to quote over the phone is stonewalling and price gouging in disguise, rather than the only honest position available in this transaction. A phone quote for plumbing work is either a guaranteed lowball to secure the appointment, followed by a significantly higher invoice upon arrival, or a guaranteed overquote, padded to cover every unknown the plumber can't see from wherever they are standing when Karen called. Neither serves Karen. A site-specific quote after visual assessment is the only number in this transaction that reflects reality. The most common consumer complaint against plumbing companies, documented by the Better Business Bureau and state contractor licensing boards, is the phone quote that multiplied upon arrival. This practice is specifically enabled by phone quoting, not eliminated by it. It is the natural consequence of committing to a price before seeing the job. Plumbing pricing variables invisible over the phone include pipe access behind drywall or under concrete, pipe material encountered, existing code violations requiring correction before new work can proceed, water damage discovered during the repair, material availability at current supplier pricing, and permit requirements that vary by scope. A plumber who discovers a corroded shutoff valve or active mold during a repair they quoted over the phone for a simple fixture swap must either honor an unworkable quote or renegotiate on site. The second scenario is the complaint Karen files tomorrow. The analogous professional services all require in-person assessment. Contractors don't quote renovation costs by phone description, physicians don't finalize treatment plans by symptom summary, mechanics don't quote engine repair costs before opening the hood. Demanding a final price quote for plumbing work over the phone is like demanding a wedding cake quote before telling the baker how many guests, what flavor, or that the venue is 90 minutes away. 51. Karen watched the plumber work for 45 minutes on a fully accessible pipe in her basement. She can see the pipe. She can see the fitting. She has watched plumbing videos and she doesn't understand why it's taking this long or why the quote is this high. Stated in the specific tone of someone who has already decided that visibility equals simplicity and is waiting for the plumber to agree. Pipe visibility tells you where the pipe is. It tells you nothing about what the pipe is made of, how it's connected, what conditions exist upstream and downstream of the failure, or how a correct repair interfaces with decades of original installation decisions that the plumber is navigating in real time while Karen watches from the doorway with her phone. A visually accessible pipe in a basement may be original, 1950s galvanized steel connected to copper with a union that has corroded into a single fused assembly. Cutting into the system requires managing transition fittings, protecting the downstream section, and addressing the galvanization flaking contaminating the supply. Older homes frequently have supply line configurations that don't match any modern standard. Non-standard pipe diameters, non-standard thread forms, unusual valve designs, requiring custom fittings that must be sourced rather than pulled from truck stock. Lead-soldered copper joints from before 1986 require specialized handling during cutting to minimize lead exposure. A worker cutting such a joint without appropriate respiratory protection is violating OSHA lead standards, not taking an inefficient approach. Working time in plumbing is dominated by preparation and protection, draining lines, allowing joints to dry before soldering, protecting surrounding materials from torch heat, not by the actual repair motion. The 45 minutes Karen observed was largely mandatory process time. Assuming a visible pipe means a quick fix is the same logic as assuming a visible engine means a quick car repair. You can see everything. You understand nothing about what you're seeing, and the pipe has been in there since 1987 with opinions about being touched. 52, Karen has made the observation in front of the plumber while he is diagnosing her sewer backup that plumbing is a dying trade that anyone can learn from YouTube. She means it as a cultural comment, not an insult. She has looked up a lot of things online, and she thinks information access is replacing trade expertise in a way that makes this whole licensing system feel like a formality from a previous era. YouTube has made plumbing information widely available. It has not made plumbing skills widely achievable, has not granted homeowners the judgment that field experience develops, and has not replaced the licensing system that protects Karen from the consequences of applying tutorial knowledge to her actual infrastructure. The Bureau of Labor Statistics projects plumber, pipe fitter, and steam fitter employment to grow 6% through 2032, faster than the average for all occupations, driven by infrastructure aging, construction demand, and a retirement wave among experienced tradespeople. The average age of a licensed plumber in the country is rising, and the skilled trades face a documented shortage severe enough to delay construction projects nationally. Median plumber compensation in the United States is approximately $60,000 annually at the journeyman level. Master plumbers in major metro areas frequently exceed 6 figures. This is not a trajectory that describes a dying trade. It describes a trade with fewer workers than the market needs. YouTube provides procedural knowledge, how to perform the steps, without contextual knowledge. When this procedure is appropriate, what it means if a step doesn't go as shown, and how to diagnose the situation before beginning. The latter is what creates professional competency. The licensing system exists because bad plumbing causes cross-connections between potable and non-potable water systems, sewer gas infiltration, and unpermitted work. Risks that tutorial confidence does not eliminate. Saying plumbing is being replaced by YouTube is like saying surgery will be replaced by medical websites. The information is more available than ever, the expertise is not. Karen will confirm this at 2 in the morning when the pipe bursts. 53, Karen's toilet rocks slightly and has a faint odor. Her neighbor has definitively diagnosed this as a wax ring failure, based on once watching a plumber perform a wax ring replacement and retaining full confidence from the experience. And Karen would like the plumber to replace the wax ring and leave, while characterizing the additional inspection suggestions as unwelcome speculation about problems that don't yet exist. A rocking toilet can mean a failed wax ring. A wax ring fails because something caused it to fail. Replacing the wax ring without identifying the cause replaces a $10 part and leaves the problem that destroyed the $10 part fully intact, on schedule to destroy the next one. Wax rings seal the toilet horn to the closet flange and should last the life of the toilet under normal conditions. They don't fail spontaneously. They fail because the toilet rocks due to loose floor bolts, a cracked or corroded closet flange, a soft subfloor from water damage beneath the toilet, or an uneven floor surface, all of which will immediately attack the replacement wax ring if they are not addressed first. A corroded cast iron closet flange, extremely common in homes over 40 years old, cannot be resealed by a new wax ring because the flange surface itself is compromised. The wax has no stable surface to seat against, and the new ring will fail in months with a confidence that mirrors the neighbor's diagnosis. A soft subfloor beneath the toilet indicates water damage, possibly from the leaking wax ring over time. That can extend through the subfloor into floor joists, requiring sistering of joists and subfloor patch before toilet reinstallation. Insisting the plumber just replace the wax ring because your neighbor said so is like insisting the mechanic just change the fuse because your neighbor said so. Sometimes it is just the fuse. Sometimes the fuse is the last visible symptom of wiring that has been deteriorating inside your wall. Your neighbor cannot see inside your wall. 54, Karen is challenging the material cost on her repair quote because pipe is pipe, she has seen it at the hardware store, she could buy it herself for less, and she doesn't understand why the plumber is specifying one type when a cheaper type is on the same shelf directly next to it, with no obvious difference visible to the naked eye of someone who has never installed either. Pipe material determines failure mode, longevity, chemical compatibility, pressure rating, temperature rating, and code compliance. Selecting wrong is not a cosmetic error. It is a ticking failure with a warranty that belongs exclusively to the person who made the selection and approved the installation. CPVC and PVC are similar in appearance but have radically different temperature ratings. PVC is rated for cold water only, generally below 140 degrees Fahrenheit. CPVC is rated for hot water up to 200 degrees Fahrenheit. Installing PVC on a hot water line causes progressive softening, deformation, and eventual joint failure, which Karen already witnessed firsthand several items ago and appears to have filed under unrelated information. Black ABS pipe and white PVC drain pipe are not interchangeable. The solvent cements for each material are specific, and using ABS cement on PVC, or vice versa, creates a joint that never fully cures, fails under stress, and leaks sewage. Copper type M, type L, and type K designations refer to wall thickness. Type M is appropriate for interior residential supply. Type K is required for underground and high-pressure applications. Using Type M underground fails within years due to soil corrosion and load stress. Mixing dissimilar metals, copper to galvanized steel, without a dielectric union creates galvanic corrosion that consumes the less noble metal and produces joint failure within 2 to 5 years. Saying all pipe materials are basically the same is the structural equivalent of saying all steel is basically the same when you're building a bridge. Put the wrong grade in the wrong place and the bridge has opinions about it. 55. Karen has identified a water stain on her ceiling and has clarified to the plumber that it is from an old leak. The roof was repaired 2 years ago, the stain is cosmetic, it is not relevant to the plumbing call, and the plumber suggesting it warrants investigation is overreaching into a chapter of home history that Karen has already closed and filed. A water stain on a ceiling tells you that water was there. It does not tell you when, how much, whether it stopped, or whether the source was what you think it was. The confidence with which Karen has diagnosed a stain from 2 years of memory is not a plumbing assessment. It is a story she has been telling herself that the moisture meter in the plumber's bag is about to complicate. Water stains are residual mineral deposits from evaporated water. They are permanent regardless of whether the leak is active or resolved. A 2-year-old stain and a 2-week-old stain look identical to the naked eye under every lighting condition available in a residential hallway. The only diagnostic tool that can confirm an active versus historical leak in a concealed cavity is a moisture meter, which measures actual moisture content in the ceiling drywall and framing, not the stain's age as estimated by the homeowner. Plumbing supply leaks above a ceiling are often intermittent, leaking only when the fixture is used, then drying between uses, persisting for months with a stain that appears dry between cycles. A confirmed active leak in a ceiling cavity will have elevated moisture meter readings even between leaking cycles, and elevated moisture is the precondition for mold growth that begins within 24 to 48 hours under the right conditions. Insurance companies classify a leak Karen dismissed as old that is found to be ongoing as a long-term slow leak, a category many policies explicitly exclude due to homeowner failure to mitigate. Deciding a ceiling stain is historical based on your memory of a roof repair is like deciding a wound is healed because you remember putting a bandage on it 2 years ago. 56. Karen received a diagnostic fee on her invoice and is contesting it because the plumber looked at the pipes, identified the problem, and quoted a repair. And looking at something is not a service. Walking around a basement is not billable labor, and she should not owe money for someone observing her plumbing situation and forming an opinion about it that she is free to reject. Diagnostic work is the most technically demanding part of a service call. Identifying where a problem is, why it occurred, and what the correct repair requires is the expertise Karen is paying for. And refusing to pay for the most valuable part of the visit while accepting the less skilled physical labor portion represents a misunderstanding of where the professional value actually lives in a plumbing transaction. Plumbing diagnostics involve systematic pressure testing, flow rate measurement, visual inspection of accessible components, correlation of symptoms to probable causes, and professional judgment about failure mode. None of these are just looking. An incorrect diagnosis results in an incorrect repair, fixing the symptom rather than the cause, and guaranteeing a callback with additional expense. The diagnostic fee is the cost of getting the answer right the first time rather than the cost of performing the same repair twice. A plumbing diagnostic visit uses specialized equipment, pressure gauges, flow meters, moisture meters, thermal cameras, and sewer inspection cameras. None of these are free to own, calibrate, or operate, and none of them appear in the visit Karen is describing as a casual walk-around. Service call fees are standard in every skilled trade, HVAC, electrical, appliance repair, and in virtually every professional service industry. Plumbing is not unique in this billing structure. Refusing to pay a diagnostic fee because the plumber just looked is the same logic as refusing to pay a lawyer for the consultation where they told you that you didn't have a case. The expertise delivered the answer. The answer has value. 57. Karen installed an under-sink filter and a refrigerator inline filter and considers her home's water completely treated. She declines any mention of a whole house system because she already has filtration, the filters are handling it, and the plumber raising additional concerns is selling a solution to a problem she solved 8 months ago when the filters arrived in a box. Consumer water filters are designed for specific contaminants at specific flow rates, and they address the water at the specific outlets where they are installed. A pitcher filter and a refrigerator filter treat 2 points of use. Every other faucet, every shower, the washing machine, the bathtub, and the ice maker plumb directly to the main line receive entirely unfiltered water on the same schedule as before the filters arrived. Point-of-use filters have no effect on water quality at any other fixture in the home. This is not a limitation of the specific brands Karen chose. It is the fundamental nature of point-of-use filtration as a category. Chlorine and chloramine in unfiltered shower water convert to trihalomethanes and other disinfection byproducts when heated. Inhalation of steam from chlorinated hot water in an enclosed shower is a more significant exposure pathway for some contaminants than drinking, which is why shower filters exist as a distinct product category with their own certification standards. Standard refrigerator and pitcher filters use activated carbon, effective for chlorine, some volatile organic compounds, and taste and odor compounds. They are not effective for heavy metals without certified lead reduction media, nitrates, fluoride, or arsenic. NSF International certifies filters to specific standards, and a filter certified only to standard 42 removes aesthetic contaminants, not health contaminants. Filter cartridges have rated service lives in gallons. An overdue cartridge replacement turns the filter from a treatment device into a concentrated bacterial growth medium. Installing a pitcher filter and declaring your home's water fully treated is like putting a smoke detector in the kitchen and deciding your house is fireproof. 58. Karen's drain gurgles after the dishwasher runs, and she is demanding the plumber snake the line to remove whatever is stuck. She is certain of the diagnosis, and the plumber suggesting the gurgle may be a venting issue rather than a blockage is avoiding the obvious solution in a way that Karen finds professionally suspicious. Drain gurgling has 2 distinct causes: a partial obstruction creating turbulence, or a venting deficiency creating air pressure events when high-volume discharge hits the drain system. Snaking a vent-related gurgle accomplishes nothing except charging Karen for a service that addresses a condition that is not present in her pipe while leaving the actual cause completely untouched. When a dishwasher drains rapidly, it discharges a large volume of water suddenly. If the drain branch is adequately vented, this water flows smoothly. If the vent is restricted or absent, the water column pulls air through the trap, creating the gurgling sound as air bubbles through the trap water seal, which is the sound Karen is describing, and the event the plumber has identified as venting related based on the symptom pattern. Vent pipe obstructions are a common and frequently overlooked cause of gurgling. Bird nests, debris accumulation, ice plugs in cold climates, and failed vent covers can all restrict the air supply that the drain system requires to equalize pressure. A simple diagnostic distinguishes obstruction from venting. If the drain flows freely but gurgles, it is a venting issue. If the drain flows slowly and gurgles, it is an obstruction with a secondary venting component. Running a snake through a free-flowing drain that gurgles due to a venting issue will produce no result. The snake passes through clear pipe, nothing is retrieved, and the gurgle continues on the next dishwasher cycle. The dishwasher drain connection through a missing or improperly installed air gap is a common specific source of the symptom Karen described. Insisting the plumber snake a drain that gurgles from a venting problem is like demanding a mechanic replace the fuel pump because your car won't start when the battery is dead. 59. Karen has galvanized steel pipes throughout her 1955 home. She is resistant to the repipe recommendation because steel is stronger than plastic. This is common sense physics. Her steel pipes have lasted 68 years, and the plastic pipe being recommended cannot possibly represent an upgrade over a material that has been standing since before Karen was born. Galvanized steel pipe corrodes from the inside out. At nearly 7 decades of age, Those pipes have spent their entire service life accumulating rust, mineral scale, and corrosion product that restricts their internal diameter to a fraction of the original bore. They are not strong pipes. They are hollow cylinders of rust wearing a steel exterior, and the only thing confirming they are fine is that nobody has looked inside them. Galvanized steel pipe is coated with zinc to prevent corrosion. The zinc coating on residential supply pipe depletes over 20 to 30 years in typical water chemistry, after which the underlying steel corrodes actively from the water contact inward. A process that has been running uninterrupted in Karen's pipes for approximately 38 to 48 years. Internal corrosion in galvanized pipe produces iron oxide and calcium carbonate scale that accumulates in layers. A 3/4 inch galvanized supply pipe in a home of this age commonly has an effective bore diameter of 3/8 inch or less, representing 75% restriction of original flow capacity. Water passing through severely corroded galvanized pipe arrives at fixtures with elevated iron content, elevated lead content from solder joints, and elevated manganese, all health concerns at sufficient concentrations. PEX and CPVC pipe, the common replacement materials, are chemically inert in normal water chemistry, do not corrode, maintain their bore diameter for decades, and have pressure ratings exceeding any residential supply application. Keeping 68-year-old galvanized pipes because steel is stronger than plastic is the material confidence of someone who has never looked inside their own pipes. The outside is steel, the inside is a rust museum with a narrow water passage through the center. 60, Karen called for emergency service at 11 in the evening on a Sunday because her main shutoff valve failed with water running into her utility room. The plumber arrived in 45 minutes, and Karen is now disputing the emergency rate on the invoice because the repair itself was straightforward once the plumber arrived, and a straightforward repair should not carry a premium regardless of what time the calendar displayed when it happened. Emergency rate is charged for availability, dispatch, and response, not for the complexity of the repair once the technician is standing in your utility room with dry feet. Karen's 11 o'clock Sunday water emergency required a licensed plumber to be available, awake, equipped, dispatched, and traveling to her address on a Sunday night. That availability costs money to maintain regardless of how the call ends. Plumbing companies that offer 24-hour emergency service maintain on-call staff rotations, after-hours dispatch systems, and stocked service vehicles around the clock. These are infrastructure costs that exist regardless of call volume on any given Sunday night and regardless of whether the repair at the end of the drive takes 20 minutes or 3 hours. The emergency rate compensates the technician for interrupted rest, weekend premium, standard across all skilled trades, after-hours insurance coverage activation, and the liability premium associated with emergency response work where diagnostic time is compressed and conditions are consistently worse than standard service calls. A failed main shutoff valve with flowing water is not a routine service scenario, regardless of repair complexity. The water was running into the utility room for the 45 minutes it took the plumber to arrive. The prompt response prevented that from becoming significantly more expensive. Disputing an emergency rate because the repair was straightforward is the billing logic of disputing an ambulance fee because your injury turned out to be non-life-threatening. You called because you didn't know. They came because you called. The rate is for the response. Karen's utility room floor is dry because someone drove to her house at 11 on a Sunday. 61. Karen's hot water is slow to arrive at her master bath. She has turned the water heater up 3 separate times to address delivery time. Each adjustment has made the water temperature higher without changing the weight, and she now additionally believes the water heater is costing more to run than it used to while producing the same results she started with, which is a description of what happens when you set a water heater above its recommended temperature and pay for it continuously without receiving anything in return. Increasing water heater temperature does not reduce delivery time because delivery time is a pipe volume problem, not a heater output problem. This has not changed since the last 2 times it was explained to Karen at different thermostat settings. What has changed is the operating cost. A water heater set above its recommended temperature loses more heat to standby loss every hour of every day than one set correctly because heat loss is proportional to the temperature difference between the tank and the surrounding air. Standby heat loss, the continuous heat bleed through tank walls, is governed by this temperature differential. A tank at 140 degrees Fahrenheit in a 70-degree utility room has twice the thermal driving force for heat loss compared to a tank at 105 degrees in the same room. The Department of Energy's recommended water heater setting for most households is 120 degrees. chosen to balance Legionella bacteria suppression, scald prevention, and standby energy efficiency simultaneously. Cold water mixing at fixtures adds no energy savings relative to simply setting the heater lower. The mixing valve dilutes hot water to a comfortable temperature using cold water, which is thermodynamically equivalent to heating less water to a comfortable temperature in the first place. A water heater set 20 degrees above the recommended temperature costs approximately 4 to 6% more in standby energy annually. Setting your water heater to maximum to work hard once and mixing cold water at the tap is like setting your house thermostat to 90 and opening windows to cool down. The meter records what the element is actually doing. 62. Karen has been using bleach tablets in all 3 toilet tanks quarterly as a whole home sanitation measure, she believes. The bleach migrates through the plumbing when the toilets flush and sanitizes the drain lines throughout the house. She considers this proactive maintenance, and the plumber examining her deteriorated flush valves is attributing their condition to a practice that Karen has been performing specifically for the health of the system. Bleach dropped into a toilet tank stays in the toilet tank until flushed. When flushed, it travels directly to the municipal sewer. It does not circulate through drain lines, does not sanitize supply lines, and spends its entire residence time degrading the rubber components of the toilet it was placed in while accomplishing nothing Karen intended it to accomplish anywhere in the broader system. The toilet tank is a closed system. Water enters from the supply, fills the tank, and exits entirely through the flush valve into the bowl and drain with each flush. There is no circulation pathway through which tank-dissolved bleach travels backward into supply lines or sideways into drain branch lines. The chemistry cannot travel where the plumbing does not go. Sodium hypochlorite at toilet tank concentration is diluted by the tank volume to approximately 100 to 200 parts per million, sufficient to degrade rubber components but far below the concentration needed for effective pipe biofilm disinfection, which requires sustained contact time at much higher concentrations than a toilet flush delivers. The toilet flapper, made of natural rubber or thermoplastic elastomer, degrades in bleach exposure at a rate that reduces its typical 5-year lifespan to 12 to 18 months. American Standard, Kohler, Toto, and virtually every major toilet manufacturer state in their warranty documentation that damage from in-tank bleach tablets is not covered. Putting bleach tablets in your toilet tank to sanitize your plumbing system is like soaking your engine in disinfectant to keep your car healthy. Wrong target, wrong pathway, consistent confidence. 63. Karen finds the concept of a sewer scope inspection unnecessary because the pipes are underground. Things that are buried do not change. She is purchasing the home and considers the inspection an unnecessary add-on, invented to charge buyers money for looking at pipes that have presumably been fine since they were installed and will presumably continue to be fine on the same basis. Underground pipes change constantly. They are subject to root intrusion, soil movement, thermal cycling, material degradation, and corrosion, all of which occur in complete darkness, silently, for decades, and are detectable only by camera until the day they fail in a way that has a dollar amount attached. The sewer lateral connecting a home to the municipal main is among the most failure-prone components of a residential property and is entirely the homeowner's financial responsibility to repair. The utility owns only the main, not the connection to it. Tree root intrusion into sewer laterals is the leading cause of sewer main failure in established residential neighborhoods. Roots enter at pipe joints and grow to fill the pipe bore over 5 to 15 years, creating a failure invisible above grade until a backup event occurs inside the home. Clay tile laterals, standard in pre-1970. Construction experience a failure mode called bellying, sections that settle under soil movement, creating low points where solids accumulate and where ground pressure can crush thin-walled tile with no surface warning. Cast iron laterals develop internal mineral buildup and graphitization that progressively reduce bore diameter and structural integrity. A cast iron pipe that looks intact from above may have walls measuring a fraction of their original thickness. Sewer lateral replacement costs $5,000 to $15,000 for open cut replacement or $3,000 to $8,000 for trenchless lining. A pre-purchase sewer scope inspection costs $150 to $300 and is the only way to know which of those conversations is in your immediate future. Declining a sewer scope because the pipes are underground and therefore unchanged is the due diligence of someone who has never considered what underground means to metal and clay over multiple decades. 64. Karen has placed bleach tablets in her toilet tanks, poured chemical drain cleaner into her drains, rigged her washing machine to the garden, siliconed over her overflow drain, and bent her toilet float arm. And now she is standing in front of a plumber holding a water filter she installed 8 months ago while telling him that her home's water infrastructure is fully managed and what she needs is just a simple repair of one small thing, which the plumber will attempt to define in the context of everything that surrounds it. A home's plumbing is a system. Every component affects adjacent components. Every decision Karen made in isolation has produced a downstream consequence that is now present in this service call simultaneously, and the plumber's job is not to address one small thing. It is to perform surgery on a patient who has been applying home remedies to every organ simultaneously for several years and would like to discuss only the elbow. The bleach degraded the rubber in the flush valves, which changed how the toilet fills, which masked the fact that the float was set incorrectly, which created an overflow condition, which contributed to the moisture reading under the floor that nobody has addressed. The chemical drain cleaner damaged the PVC branch line walls while failing to clear the grease accumulation that hot water moved further into the line, which the snake that broke off is now resting on top of. The filter Karen installed has an overdue cartridge that is now a bacterial accumulation point in the supply line feeding the one fixture she drinks from. A plumbing system maintained through accumulated confident misconceptions does not have one small problem. It has one visible problem and a supporting cast of consequences. Telling a plumber you just need one small thing fixed after doing everything in this video to your own home is like telling a mechanic you just need an oil change after describing every item on this list to your engine. 65. Karen does not want the plumber to enter her home. She has proposed that the slow bathroom drain and running toilet can be addressed from outside by working through the clean-out or meter, and the plumber's insistence that interior access is required is a preference rather than a necessity, which Karen is prepared to work around if the plumber is willing to be creative about it. External cleanouts provide access to the main sewer lateral between the foundation and the street. They do not connect to fixture drains, toilet flush mechanisms, or interior supply valves. The plumber cannot fix a toilet flapper or a bathroom drain from the street. This is not a preference. It is geography, and geography does not become negotiable because the alternative is more convenient for Karen's schedule. An exterior cleanout is a capped access point on the main drain line only. It has no connection to the individual fixture drains or branch lines serving the bathroom with the running toilet and slow drain Karen is reporting. A running toilet is caused by a failed flapper, fill valve, or float mechanism. All inside the toilet tank, inside the bathroom, connected to nothing accessible from any exterior point on the property. A slow bathroom drain is caused by an obstruction in the P-trap directly under the fixture, in the branch line, or in the stack, all located inside the house. The exterior cleanout accesses the main line downstream of all of these locations. Camera inspection through an exterior cleanout can visualize the main sewer line downstream, but cannot see upstream into branch lines or fixture connections. The repair requires physical access to the fixture. The fixture is inside. The plumber needs to be where the fixture is. This is the complete description of the situation. Asking a plumber to fix your running toilet from outside the house is the access logic of asking a surgeon to operate through the hospital's exterior wall because you don't want anyone in your room. The problem is inside. These are the same facts regardless of how many times Karen rephrases the question. 66. Karen called the plumbing company back because the same type of problem has recurred 6 months after the original repair. She interprets recurrence as evidence of a defective repair. She expects the work to be redone at no charge, and she describes this as the same problem returning in a tone that treats 6 months of successful function as irrelevant to the warranty conversation she's initiating. A repair that held for 6 months was a successful repair of the original failure. What is presenting now is a new failure, caused by the same underlying condition that the original repair did not include in its scope because Karen declined that conversation 6 months ago when it was offered and priced. A drain clog recurring in 6 months is textbook root intrusion. The cleared root grows back at 1 to 2 inches per month, fully recolonizing the pipe in the same time frame in which the original clearing provided relief. The repair was successful. The diagnosis of root intrusion as a recurring systemic problem was communicated at the time. The recommended solution, root-killing treatment or pipelining, was declined. A faucet cartridge that fails within 6 months of replacement in a hard water area failed because the new cartridge experienced the same mineral abrasion that destroyed the first one. The recommended solution was a water softener or filter at the fixture. That conversation was also declined. Standard plumbing workmanship warranties cover 30 to 90 days for parts and labor. After 6 months, a new failure, regardless of location, falls outside warranty coverage and represents a new service call with a new invoice. The same problem characterization is Karen's diagnosis, not a technical assessment. 2 drain backups 6 months apart may involve the same drain but entirely different obstruction causes requiring different treatment. Saying a plumber's repair failed because the problem came back in 6 months is the warranty logic of saying your tire shop did defective work because you got a nail in a different tire 6 months after they fixed a blowout. 67. Karen has purchased a faucet, a shut-off valve, and a supply line from an online retailer and expects the plumber to install her parts at a reduced labor rate because she has done the procurement, she has done the research, she saved $60, and she considers this a resourceful contribution to the service call that the plumber should acknowledge by adjusting the invoice downward. A plumber who installs customer-supplied parts assumes zero liability for those parts, zero warranty on the installation, and zero professional responsibility for the outcome. Karen's $60 savings has purchased the elimination of every professional protection the service call was supposed to provide, which is a trade most customers don't understand they've made until the customer-supplied part fails and the invoice for the second visit has no warranty on it either. Licensed plumbing contractors carry liability insurance and provide labor warranties specifically tied to materials they supply and can vouch for. Installing customer-supplied parts removes their ability to control material quality, code compliance, and compatibility, making them unwilling and often contractually unable to warranty the resulting work. Online plumbing parts markets contain both genuine brand name products and counterfeit or substandard replicas that are visually identical to the originals. A fake cartridge or valve that fails within 60 days is Karen's problem once the plumber has disclaimed responsibility for customer-supplied materials in writing. Compatibility is a legitimate professional concern. A faucet purchased online by a customer who described their installation to a website chat interface may have wrong thread forms, incompatible valve body dimensions, or inadequate pressure ratings for the specific supply configuration, issues the plumber would have prevented by supplying the correct part from a verified source. Plumber material markup covers procurement time, vendor relationships, parts inventory carrying costs, and the warranty backstop. It is not gratuitous. Bringing your own parts to a plumber to save on markup is the same strategy as bringing your own surgical sutures to a surgeon to save on supply costs. The professional didn't get their license to install materials they can't verify. 68. Karen is watching the plumber on her phone camera, has timed the faucet installation at 55 minutes against the box illustration that showed the process in 4 steps with a smiling person and no visible complications. She has checked in 4 times, and she has raised the question of what exactly is taking so long in the specific tone of someone who has already decided the answer before the question was finished forming. The box illustration shows the installation under ideal conditions that have never existed in any home built before last Tuesday. The installation time is determined by what is already under the sink, not by what is inside the box, not by the illustrated steps, and not by the smiling person who was photographed in a warehouse with a pre-staged sink, a pre-staged valve, and an editor who cut everything that went wrong between frames. Under-sink conditions in an existing home typically include corroded supply line nuts requiring penetrating oil and specialized basin wrenches, drain connections that must be reconfigured for the new faucet's drain assembly, shut-off valves that are corroded or non-functional, and supply lines that are the wrong length for the new faucet's connections, all of which are invisible in the box and present in the cabinet. Faucet removal in a kitchen requires working in a confined space above a drain while reaching upward into the cabinet with tools that were not designed for enthusiasm to compensate for geometry. The lift rod on bathroom faucet replacements requires alignment and adjustment through an access point that varies by sink type and takes 15 to 20 minutes on its own. A corroded mounting nut on an existing faucet, the nut securing the faucet body to the sink deck from below, is frequently seized after years of mineral exposure and requires a specialized basin wrench, penetrating lubricant, or in extreme cases cutting. Easy install on consumer packaging refers to the manufacturer's design intent. It describes their components. It says nothing about what was already installed under your specific sink for the past 12 years. 69. Karen's son used a shop vacuum on the toilet. Karen poured boiling water in it. Karen's husband patched the supply line with duct tape. Karen siliconed the overflow drain. Karen turned up the water heater 3 times. And Karen's neighbor diagnosed the wax ring. And now a plumber has walked off the job mid-repair, and Karen is calling to report this as unprofessional, inexplicable, and possibly discriminatory, having concluded that her behavior during the service call was not a contributing factor. Plumbers walk off jobs for documented, industry-recognized reasons. Discovered conditions that make safe completion impossible, homeowner interference that creates unsafe working conditions, verbal conduct that crosses the professional threshold, or scope changes that invalidate the original agreement. None of these are personal. All of them are present in the description Karen has just provided without recognizing them. Unsafe working conditions that justify job abandonment include discovery of asbestos on pipe insulation requiring certified abatement, active gas odor requiring evacuation, structural conditions that make access unsafe including floor rot and unstable framing, and live electrical wiring in the work area. Any of which a plumber has the right and the professional obligation to stop working around without prior disclosure. Homeowner interference, entering the work area during active operations, touching tools, disconnecting components the plumber just connected, or overriding plumber decisions in real time, creates liability exposure that a professional is entitled to terminate before it becomes an incident. A plumber who walks off a job documents the reason in a service record, photographs the site condition at departure, and notifies the company dispatcher. This documentation creates the evidence record for any subsequent dispute. Industry dispute resolution for walked-off jobs involves reviewing both accounts, the technician's documentation and the customer's account, before any conclusion is reached. Concluding the plumber walked off because they didn't want to deal with you, while simultaneously ruling out your own behavior as a factor, is the self-awareness of someone who has never considered that the common denominator in every difficult service experience they've had might be standing in the same room as the person writing the Yelp review. 70. Karen's home has a water stain on the ceiling, a gurgling drain, a rocking toilet, corroded galvanized pipes, a seized shut-off valve, a scaled tankless water heater, a continuously running toilet she has adjusted with a bent float arm, a shop vacuum that smells like a water treatment facility, and a neighbor whose plumbing advice has been present at 4 consecutive plumbing failures. And Karen has called today because the pilot light went out for the 5th time and she would like that addressed specifically without any additional commentary about the other items. Every system in a home is connected to the same supply, the same drain, and the same pressure. The pilot light that keeps extinguishing is a thermocouple failure that a $25 part resolves. But that thermocouple is attached to a water heater that is scaled beyond its efficiency threshold, connected to a supply line with corroded shutoff valves that sees last repair, downstream of a pressure system that has never been tested in a home where the moisture readings in 3 ceiling locations are elevated and the main sewer line has not been inspected in the decade Karen has owned it. Addressing the pilot light specifically without commentary on the surrounding system is the professional equivalent of replacing the windshield wiper on a car with 4 flat tires and no brakes because the driver asked only about visibility. The wiper can be replaced. The replacement will be irrelevant to the outcome of the next drive. A plumber is not creating problems by identifying them. They are reporting conditions that exist independently of the report. The discomfort is not the diagnosis. The discomfort is the accurate information arriving after years of the alternative. Every item in this video is a real conversation that happened in a real home between a real professional and a real person who was confident they already knew the answer. The plumber is not the obstacle between Karen and a functional home. The confidence is. 71. Karen is calling to report that a plumber walked off her job mid-repair. She finds it unprofessional. She wants a full refund for any amount paid. She wants the repair completed at no charge. She wants a formal apology, and she does not believe her behavior was a contributing factor, which is, at this point in this video, the single most Karen sentence that has ever been constructed in the English language. Here is the uncomfortable truth that this entire list has been building toward. The plumber who walked off your job, the drain that keeps clogging, the water heater that keeps failing, the toilet that keeps running, the pipes that keep leaking. These are not a series of unrelated bad luck events happening to someone who has done everything correctly. They are a pattern, and the pattern has a common variable that appears in every single one of these complaints, at every single one of these service calls, across every single item on this list. You. Not because you are a bad person, not because you are uniquely uninformed, but because the gap between what most people believe about their own plumbing and what is actually true is wide enough to drive a service truck through, and nobody filled it in before today. The plumber who walked off your job documented the reason. The drain that keeps clogging was telling you something every time it slowed down. The water heater that failed 2 days after the service call was already failing before the plumber arrived. And every single one of the 71 things on this list was a widely believed myth that cost someone real money, real water damage, or a real relationship with a professional who was trying to help and got a Yelp review for it instead. Now you know. Which one did you believe the longest, and who did you tell it to? Drop it in the comments. If you want to see more, click the video on screen now.